Kia ora tātou, everybody. Just acknowledging that it's Māori Language Week. I re rangi mai, kui mai, koroma tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Nō reira I māti ata te tau I whakakahi I manaki, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Welcome, everybody. I'm obligated to read a chair's statement regarding public recording. We've got quite a number of people who are with us today on Zoom, and I have also given the presenters permission from the chair to record it in the format that they have asked for. But I do remind committee members and advisors that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be made available on the Bay of Plenty Regional Council website following the meeting and archived for a period of 3 years. Our purpose is to provide greater access to council debate, decision-making and encouraging openness and transparency. I also remind all present that local government decision-making affords no protection to councillors, council officers and the public for comments made during meetings that are subsequently challenged in a court of law and determined to be slanderous. With regards apologies today, I'm holding apologies from Stacey Spall from the New Zealand Automobile Association, and I take the opportunity to welcome Marie Rutherford, who is representing her today. We have an apology from Councillor Conan O'Brien from the Rotorua Lakes Council, His Worship Mayor Drysdale and His Worship Mayor Luca. Are there any further apologies, anybody? There being none, I will move. Seconded the Honourable Ken Shirley. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. We will now go into a public forum, and in terms of the public forum, I will just remind everyone of the definition of public forums. Public forums are a defined period of time, usually at the start of an ordinary meeting, which at the discretion of the meeting is put aside for the purpose of public input. Public forums are designed to enable members of the public to bring matters of their choice, not necessarily on the meeting's agenda, to the attention of the local authority. So we have had a formal request to receive 2 deputations today in the public forum. And I have ruled that we will allocate about 20 minutes. Are you happy with that, Rochelle? About 20 minutes. I know there's 2, so I'm pretty fluid in these situations because we want to hear from you. We'll be looking at about 10 minutes for each of the presentations and times for questioning. You happy with that? Okay, so just to let you know that all the documents that you have circulated, and I'll just read those for the record, the CAS data with regards roundabout crashes, the petition submission that you as Rochelle Zyko has submitted with regards State Highway 2, Waihi to Umukoroa, the resident testimonies that were collected in July of 2025, the State Highway 2 Katikati South review, and the Wright Road detour costs, and the Wright Road right-hand turn petition to the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, which you have contained in the last 2 paragraphs of your letter, dated the 14th of August. Just to let you know that all those documents have been circulated to all members here today, so we'll take those as read, and they will be part of the public record and will be available on our website, so the public will be fully aware of the issues that and we've got another tabled one that's just come in with regards to an executive summary, Wright Road access. You happy with all those documents? And just take comfort that everyone at this table has had them for some time and is fully aware of their contents. So, first of the 10 minutes. So, as you know, we can't get into a debate or an altercation with you or whatever. We're here primarily to receive an update from you as to what the situation currently is at Wright Road and where you are with regards lobbying Wellington and other entities with regards the changes that you would require. So, floor's yours, Rochelle. Are you leading it, are you? Okay, yeah, tandem, go for it.
I'm leading, thanks. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, councillors, staff and visitors. It's good to see many familiar faces again. My name is Mike Williams, and it saddens me that I appear before you again on this topic of wire barriers blocking access to side roads south of Katikati. As I was asked to speak first, I will be followed by Rochelle Zako, Finn McDonald and Alan Thorne of the Wright Road group. We respectfully ask you to hold any questions until we have all spoken. As many of you are aware of the battle we've had with NZTA over the initial proposal of placing wire barriers from Katikati to Pahoja and the subsequent reversal of the decision 2 hours before a large public meeting in Katikati on the 23rd of July 2024. At that meeting, the following resolution was passed unanimously. The meeting requests the Regional Transport Committee, supported by Western Bay of Plenty District Council, to write to the Board of NZTA highlighting the community concern and urging them to make provision for right-hand turns on all lateral roads joining State Highway 2 between Katikati and Omakaroa. And that means all lateral roads, not just some. The Wright Road group are urgently requesting the Regional Council to do all in its power to ensure that the resolution applies to all roads, and they ask the RLTC members to reopen discussions with the NZT over this issue. Some brief background notes. Road Improvements Waihi to Omakaroa Option 3 was endorsed on the 13th of 10th, 2017, costing 101 million. This was much needed and greatly appreciated by the local community. This included road widening, a wide centre line, all intersections improved with right turns in and out, plus side barriers. The speed limit was reduced on the 11th of 12th, 2020 to 80 kilometres an hour. However, it was not until July 2021 that the first feasibility study of median barriers and roundabouts was completed, and the board approval was given on the 24th of the 10th, 2021 for this additional work. It is interesting to note that NZTA did not give option 3 improvements time to prove their effectiveness before embarking on the median barrier and roundabouts. If NZTA had allowed time before embarking on the median barrier option, it's quite possible would never have happened, as the safety factors put in place by option 3 would have been sufficient. This would have saved NZTA over 85 million and the embarrassing backdowns. I do not have to reiterate how much distress this has caused the local community that have been blocked off. This will be elaborated on by other speakers. However, of real concern is the misinformation that NZTA have put out regarding decisions made about State Highway 2 Waihi to Omakaroa. I have asked for a written letter to Nicole Rosie, CEO of NZTA at the time, from a gentleman called Al McConig, highlighting some of these inconsistencies to be circulated. As an OI response from me to the question, the date on which the decision to erect wire barriers was made, the National Manager Infrastructure Delivery, Peter Wiles, responded on the 15th of April 2016. It was not until the 24th of October 2021 that the board actually approved the installation of median barriers and roundabouts. And here they're saying that it happened 5 years earlier. This is typical of the type of misinformation that's put out. The only reason the median barriers were erected between Morton Road and Matahui Road was because these were the 2 roundabouts that were completed, which allowed the first section of median barrier to be erected. We understand that NZTA was hurt over the cancelling of the median barrier project, Katikati to Omakaroa, and the pride has possibly got in the way of re-examining the Wright Road section, which currently has median barriers. Mr. Chairman, today is a sad day when a public organisation refuses to attend this meeting, citing safety concerns. Attending these meetings is part of NZTA's mandate, and to cite safety reasons for a lack of physical attendance, well, I'll let you draw your own conclusions. This is just another example of the refusal to engage, ducking for cover and trying to deflect from the real issue. Here are 4 pages that of so-called abuse. The worst thing I can find is NZTA spares no ears, which was a sign that was put up by protesters prior to the back down by NZTA, and it was in reference to NZTA not listening to residents' concerns. I ask you, is that a reason not to attend this meeting? NZTA has portrayed the Wright Road group as aggressive troublemakers and refused to meet with them, citing safety concerns. This is a load of nonsense. Do any of you feel in danger? Of course not. We are normal, hardworking rural people who have businesses and lives to run that have been severely and adversely affected by the median barriers, not aggressive as portrayed. We are willing to have dialogue with NZTA to look at possible solutions that are beneficial to everyone. We want common sense to prevail, not let pride get in the way. We also want factual data taken into consideration, not skewed data to make a case for retaining the median barrier. Mr. Chairman, the Wright Road group are willing to meet at any time with NZTA officials to obtain a fair and just resolution to this impasse. We also ask you, the Western Bay of Plenty District Council, the Regional Land Transport Committee, to work with and for us as our representatives to fully implement the resolution passed in Katikati on the 23rd of the 7th, 24. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, it takes greater courage to admit that you have made a mistake than to stubbornly justify a decision which has been made without proper consultation and with the use of selective information only. As the old saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a cat. The same applies to the Wright Road situation. Thank you.
Michael, do you want questions now, or would you like to have them after Rochelle and the other speakers have presented?
After the other speakers have spoken, thank you.
So technically understanding orders, I'm only meant to receive 2 speakers, but I'm on this occasion going to stretch it a bit. And I know you 3 of you have come and prepared something for us. So Rochelle, looking at about 10 minutes.
Quick. Okay, I'll jump in.
And can you keep your microphone on for the purpose of live streaming? Many thanks.
Thank you, Chair. My name's Finn McDonald, one of the affected residents. We're also business owners on the road, and none of us want to be here doing this. So I just want to make that clear. I've got some slides which are photos of the intersection because I think that's relevant to help you understand what's going on. So as you can see on the screen, this is a picture of the intersection before the turning bay was installed. I've got a closer picture here. This next slide, although blurry, shows what it looked like before the option 3 improvements. The intersection was dangerous at this point. Here's a closer picture. You can see there's nowhere for vehicles to stop and when they want to turn off the main road into the intersection. This is what it looked like when you were standing on the road here. You can imagine how that would lead to dangerous intersection, things occurring, which we did see. This is a picture after the option 3 improvements. So you can note the turning bay installed in the center. There was road widening and side barriers installed. You can also see the traffic lines. So here is another picture of the turning bay. Here's another closer picture of this intersection with the turning bay. This is what it looks like today. Here's another photo of what people need to navigate now when they come through the intersection. Just take a note of all of the objects in the field of vision. This is another shot of the same area. Here is a photo further up the road heading north. If you look closely on the road surface, you can see the old paint marks from the turning bay. Here's a photo looking south. This is an agricultural vehicle holding up traffic on State Highway 2. Here is a picture of vehicles coming through northbound on the site. So we would like to commend NZTA and thank them very much for the option 3 improvements that were done. They did make a huge improvement to the site, so that does need to be acknowledged. Here are some of the maps that were published in 2021 about what was going to be improved. I've put an arrow there on the second map because it's hard to see on the screen from here. However, it's not clear if Wright Road will be blocked off. Wright Road does not have a road label. This is the same map that was presented at the cottage meeting in 2021. In the same information that was published, we got a standard bridge treatment diagram. This indicated that the Tawa line between the bridge and where the barrier would start would be at least 100 meters and then another 50 meters, which is further than the Wright Road intersection to where the bridge is. So our residents assumed, based on this information, that they would never put the barrier that close to the bridge because it would create a dangerous situation. You can see in here in the feasibility study that it was identified that engaging with our residents was an engagement risk. So it says there that we were supposed to mitigate this for the cottage meeting. And I note that at the cottage meeting, they presented the unclear maps. Here is the same map that was at the cottage meeting. Residents asked, are you going to block our road? And they said, inconclusive answers. Here's the standard bridge Tawa treatment. So Wright Road is classed as a significant site road with over 700 cars per day. It seemed to always be missing on the map. I've got 3 instances in writing here of how NZTA's stated that they did not directly consult with us. We can see that we were identified here as, being an engagement risk because it would be assumed that the residents would find this unpopular. So the first confirmation came in 28th May 2024, where it was stated that the barriers would go across our road. These are the maps that were produced, and you note that the barrier install started in June or July, which is the very next month. Back in 2021, there was a clear diagram of what they were planning to do. It would have been very easy to simply provide this to us. That was on page 96 of the 296-page feasibility document. So here we have a statement from the police stating that there would need to be pragmatic decisions made on the start and end locations of the barrier to avoid serious implications of poor driving behaviour. Now, if I'm just going to skip across here to some of the incidences of the driving behaviour. Here you can see there's a vehicle doing a right turn into Wright Road. Here is 2 vehicles driving on the wrong side of the road to avoid going around the barrier. That looks blurry, however, that's a ute driving in the wrong direction of travel intentionally. We had a monitoring occur where they noted 4 wrong way driving incidents on average per day. The current mitigation is to install a camera and ask police to monitor and enforce road fines for anyone doing tickets at that site. So Google Maps still tells you to turn right. And this slide here is reasonably important because it talks about option 4A, all barriers, versus option B3, noting leaving the side roads, significant side roads open. And if you look at there, it says that the DSI saving reduction is negligible, which is also undermined by the wrong way driving. I'll finish there. Yeah.
Keep your microphones on, Rochelle. While Rochelle's sorting this out, just
Sorry.
no, you're okay. I was just going to say, all politicians in the room, as you know, in my meetings, I afford your speaking rights. That includes you too, Councillor Murray Benj down the back there. So, but in the event of us having to take a vote, we all know who can only vote. So when we get to questions, any politician in the room, please feel free to ask any questions of clarification. Ready to go, Rochelle?
Yes.
Good. Welcome. Go for it.
Thank you. So I'm just going to provide you a quick update on the Select Committee petition to Parliament. They were deliberating yesterday. They have been given a report by us with more information. They had asked, the Select Committee in Parliament had asked NZTA to meet with us. So that was organised by Andrew Corkle. I was told I was allowed one person in the room with me. Police were to attend. And when I went back and asked for an agenda item on what was originally presented to the board, and I wanted it live streamed for the community, the meeting was cancelled. So that's where that's at. So I'm going to just show you a couple of crucial pieces of information that have come out by NZTA on our intersection. They state on the section of State Highway 2 between Matahui and Moreton Road roundabouts, there have been 29 crashes in the CARES database between 2019 and 2024. This resulted in 4 serious injuries. Of these, 6 crashes occurred right at the Wright Road intersection. Now, these dates are important. So this graph here shows all the accidents at the Wright Road intersection in the last 25 years. Now, what he's saying is between 2019 and 2024, there were 6 crashes. However, all of those crashes were pre-right turning bay installation, and Wright Road had a lovely new turning bay for 3 years with no accidents. That worked for our community. It worked for the highway. Everyone was happy, and that's what we'd like to go back to, and that's what this is showing today. Show you one more graph if I can. This data I've just pulled from the CARES database. The Matahui and Moreton Road roundabouts, this is over the last 20 years at Matahui roundabout, well, which was an intersection. There's a trend of 1 to 2 crashes every few years or every year. That trend has not stopped with the introduction of the roundabouts. There's crashes happening still at the roundabouts, and this graph here shows the corridor, each road, Work Road up to Whara Road, and these are the crashes that are happening, and each of those bar graphs, bar 1 at Thompson's Track, is the roundabout crashes, and the other roads are showing no crashes, and they are right turn roads, and Wright Road is included there. This data was taken from 2023 and 2024 after the roundabout installations. So our question is, this was a $500 million project with the introduction of roundabouts, and NZTA claiming these are safer, and we seriously question that, and we would like to go back to our safe right turn. So I just want to quickly read you our road. I repeat what I said at hearing 1 in Wellington. NZTA still refuses to address the serious impacts to our road. The evacuation route is still compromised in a flood zone. Emergency services are delayed reaching our rural road. We are driving an extra 1.5 kilometres in detours we never agreed to, costing an estimated $1.8 million in fuel and vehicle. Our properties are losing value and the intersection is far more dangerous now. We are pushed onto unsafe roundabouts and we're the only road forced to do this. But NZTA claim they took a corridor-wide approach. And finally, when NZTA refuses a public town hall meeting, 6 formal meeting requests, cancels meetings without reason, hides behind claims of staff feeling unsafe, refuses to front up here today, the treatment of us, our town, our community, our businesses, and our residents is nothing short of disgraceful. Thank you.
Another 2 speakers. I give there one more.
Mr. Chairman, Council's Land Transport Committee. I'm Alan Thorne. I'm a 25-year resident of Hume Road and I'm an orchardist. So in summary of the previous speakers, I'd like to draw to your attention the key points as we close our presentation. Let me say this very clearly so we correct the NZTA rhetoric that the community is opposed to centreline barriers. At no time have the community been opposed to the installation or asked for the removal of the centreline barriers. Our request has simply been to maintain right-hand turn access to State Highway 2. So here we are back meeting to discuss and hopefully resolve the issue of right turn access along the section of State Highway 2 between Matahui and Morton Roads, where right turn access has been occluded. Mike Williams has presented the history of our interactions, and again, we ask you to reaffirm your previous resolution of the Town Hall meeting to support maintaining free and full access along the State Highway 2 corridor. During the early design phase of the proposed improvements for State Highway 2, NZTA conducted what it terms extensive community engagement. It is obvious to the residents and wider community that this engagement was superficial at best. From NZTA statements, approximately 200 people attended these drop-in sessions in 2023. The wider population in the community is around 14,000, so the communications reached less than 1.5%. In my opinion, this is not a significant and sufficient communication uptake for a project of this magnitude. Subsequently, despite numerous personal and 6 formal requests between July and December 2024 from residents to meet with the NZTA representatives, including an invitation to the Town Hall meeting, all these requests were declined by NZTA. And following the parliamentary petition and the Select Committee instruction to NZTA to meet with the petitioner and our representatives of our community, this meeting was cancelled by NZTA's Andrew Corgle, the Regional Communications Manager for the Bay of Plenty, claiming that his staff felt unsafe. This appears to be a planned and repeated strategy of NZTA, and a similar course of action and decline of meetings was undertaken with the residents at Arakere, where a similar barrier was proposed. And again today, NZTA's decision to absent themselves from this meeting, citing staff feel unsafe, is a blatant and repeated action to avoid taking account of residents' viewpoints and accountability, or to justify solidly NZTA's actions. Further, whilst it would be easy to simply circulate information to the residents affected by the proposed barriers along our highway, utilising publicly available addresses from election rolls or council records, or alternatively through the rural post contractor, I, and I'm assured by many others, have had no direct communication from NZTA. Not good enough in this world of simple and easy communication services. The conclusion we can draw from these actions is that NZTA is not prepared to engage or understand the wider community perspective and the fiscal, social, cultural, or health and wellbeing impacts imposed by their designs on our community that rely on state highway access. This complete refusal to hear the public voice and concerns is not what we expect from our taxpayer-funded government organisations. These actions, in our opinion, set up a prima facie case for a formal interaction with the Ombudsman. Again, let's get the record straight. Despite the NZTA rhetoric of extensive communication, communication is a two-way street, and in this instance has simply been appalling, and the community voice has been shut out. The pressure NZTA claims to be feeling and their claim of unsafe is simply the voice of the community desperately trying to be heard. Whilst we do appreciate the NZTA was working to the previous government road to zero mantra, the current guidelines call for productivity, enhanced transport networks, etc. And we fail to see that this has been achieved along the State Highway 2 corridor, especially where access has been compromised by medium barrier installations. The diagrams that were initially presented to the community, as Finn has showed us, displayed a widened corridor, wide centre lines and right turn bays with centre barriers where appropriate to improve safety. We're simply a facade. The details of the design were buried at page 96 of a complex document and were never brought to the community's attention in their communications. The community broadly accepted these conceptual designs as a way to improve what was termed the horror highway of State Highway 2. However, project creep and a good amount of recondite information and the lack of further actual meaningful interaction with the community has resulted where we are today. Finn has taken you through a number of issues with the design process and has demonstrated elegantly that NZTA have failed to follow their own processes and procedures in regard to both design, construction and audit, and therefore critical flaws were incorporated in the build process. The Stantec pre-safety audit explicitly states barrier termination design is for 80 kilometres an hour. The current situation is now we have a design speed compliance failure since NZTA has reinstated the 100k limit. The only reasonable and logical conclusion we can draw is that NZTA does not want scrutiny of their work and that the designs and implementations don't meet standards. Ultimately, NZTA will be held accountable when an investigation of the inevitable fatality finds that the identified safety issues with the design were not remedied or adequately mitigated. The Becker Safety Systems audit of the installation across Wright Road was produced in April 25, some 9 months following the installation and subsequent to the Select Committee hearing where it was stated to be completed is another prime example of failure to follow process. If we look at that book report critically, it clearly identifies that the right turn bay was the safer option. And Peter Clark, a qualified road engineer, identified several errors in the audit, and I quote from his notes, of which you have a copy. Analysis has focused on delivering scenario 3 to support the current faulty outcome and hence cover up the biases applied in calculating the lowest comparative SSA score. That the NZTA failed to identify the facts in this Becker report audit, combined with its late delivery, it was therefore not considered as a part of the solution for access to Dawson, Wright and Ongatiri roads via the information presented to the NZTA board when the decision to cease further centreline barrier installation and retain existing installations decision was made is frankly inexcusable professional incompetence. Rochelle has taken you through the public available NZTA crash data in detail and exposed that the right turn bay access to State Highway 2 is a significantly safer option than the recently installed roundabouts. Let me be clear again, NZTA's continued claim of 15,000 vehicle movements per annum, increasing by 3% a year, is not true. NZTA data clearly shows less than 11,000 and declining road movements. Rochelle further has elegantly demonstrated the significant impacts on our local community in terms of increased vehicle movements at the roundabout and the risks involved in roundabouts, 20 times more dangerous than the right turn bays. Significant increases in vehicle running costs, reduced property values and sales, feelings of isolation, access to emergency services, cost to businesses, reduction in school bus services, closure of tsunami escape routes, and impacts on residents' health and well-being. None of these community impacts, as far as we can ascertain, were factored into the design process or were ignored by the blinkered view that State Highway 2 would become the road to zero, an impossible numbers-driven goal. That the NZTA board saw reason to halt the installation of the median barriers across the remaining 30 roads in the corridor, arguably with some intersections less sited and more complex than the Dawson, Wright and Ongatiri Road intersections, yet retain existing barriers, must be solidly data-driven or government policy-based. So either that is the case, which isn't obviously clear, or simply the case for allowing right turn access was not raised for the board's consideration in this instance. We also ask, is it reasonable for NZTA to force 700 residents to feel unsafe each time they approach what NZTA recent data clearly demonstrates are highly accident-prone and dangerous roundabouts where State Highway 2 drivers are not expecting us to make a U-turn? Our lives are on the line here. Again, let me be crystal clear on what the records show. There has not been a single fatality at the Wright Road intersection recorded in the CAS data system. Our impact did community wonders if the refusal of NZTA staff to address this issue with the board is one of pride, seen as an admission of error, that the data doesn't support the design, the installations don't meet the standards, the risk of a precedent setting, and admission of communication failure, whatever. It is the arrogant and pushback to valid community concerns through formal channels that is unacceptable. The petition to Parliament from Rochelle, which is running through the process, simply asked the Select Committee to have NZTA restore right-hand turn access to the corridor. Please note, we are currently still waiting the deliberations of the Select Committee, and they met yesterday, we understand. However, we should point out that during this process that the NZTA have taken every opportunity to obfuscate, deflect, deny and delay the Select Committee's proceedings and instructions. And if you would take time to review the Select Committee video, you will see firsthand why we make these statements. And frankly, we expect more from our public tax-funded government organisations and staff. I also hope you can appreciate the countless hours of input, OIA requests, research, data searching, analysis and debate the barriers have caused our community, let alone the additional stresses and strains that it's faced on our daily lives, the risk we take at the roundabouts, to our businesses, families, our health and well-being, incredible increase in costs running our vehicles and our investments. So in conclusion, Mr. Chairman, the community sees that there's a simple and pragmatic solution to this issue. Reinstate the right turn access, replace the centreline bay, and if necessary, achieve this outcome by implementing a restricted speed zone at 80 kilometres an hour. This process hasn't been a pleasant journey for our community, nor those that have stood up for our rights. So accordingly, we ask that you give your full support to the residents, ratepayers, and the wider Katikati community by supporting the re-establishing and retaining the future right turn access for all roads intersecting State Highway 2. You reaffirm your support for the community resolution of the July Town Hall meeting. Mr. Chairman, Councillors and Regional Transport Committee, that brings us to the conclusion of our presentation. We are happy to answer your questions if we can, and we wish to sincerely thank you for your time, your consideration, and support for our issues and for hearing our community voice. Thank you.
Thank you for the dignity with which you've presented to us today. Just two comments. One, to you, Rochelle. The presentations today have a very heavy road safety focus. And just to let you know that the New Zealand Police are members of this committee, and we normally have Inspector Logan Marsh with us, who's the District Road Police Manager. But today, in his absence, we have Inspector Paul Wilson, who is over on your right there. So he has heard all your, over here on your right, no, here. So the New Zealand Police and their safety division have heard all your concerns expressed today. I'd just like to remind colleagues too that this committee resolved on the 9th of August last year to write a letter to the NZTA board that was co-signed by myself and His Worship Mayor Denia, and we received a reply from NZTA, which was well circulated from the board chair at the time on the 5th of September last year, 2024. So I will now open it up for questions of clarification from all the members of the committee, and as I said, an open invitation to any politicians in the room. But you're all old hands at public forums, you know the rules. Please keep it to points of clarification and don't get into a debate with any of the presenters. His Worship Mayor Denia.
Thank you. I hope I don't stretch your definition, because it is more of a statement I want to make, but I will add a question at the end. I am frustrated at the intransigence of NZTA on this. There are gaps elsewhere in barriers, particularly obviously in Athenry Gorge. Those have been allowed on the basis of an arbitrary difference in vehicles per day. That always seemed pretty flimsy reason to me, but there we are. The DSI justification is painfully slim on this one. When the original consultation came out, the difference between having gaps and not having gaps is pretty small. And for this last one, I think it's getting into the realms of being negligible. But the question I have, and this may be one for Andrew ultimately, but I'll ask it of our presenters. I'm trying to struggle with what circumstances could lead to a change of heart. Whether that's a new GPS, government policy statement from the government, or it's a new NZTA board. Because I do feel, I think I agree with you. I think pride is getting in the way of this one, and it is clear to me that in conversations I've had with Andrew that the board is quite set on this, and they do not wish to change their mind on it. Perhaps Andrew can confirm that or not, but I'm struggling to see how we get the change and whether that needs a change of board at some point in the future. Actually, I'd like to comment, Rochelle.
Certainly, just check your microphones on, Rochelle, for the record.
We really want to sit with Andrew Corker or whoever to discuss what was originally presented to the board. They only went on the information they had in front of them, and I don't think any of this was explained correctly.
Honourable Ken Shirley.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. I have a question for Alan Thorne, and thank you for your presentation. It's very comprehensive. You referred to the Road to Zero policy, and I think this possibly, my question is, clearly your problems have been sort of really an expression of a culture issue within NZTA in terms of communicating with the community. But the Road to Zero mantra, as you called it, was introduced in the early stages of the previous government's office. It was fiercely opposed at the time by AA, Automobile Association, and the Road Transport Forum. I was the CEO of the Road Transport Forum at the time, and it had a lot of discussion, and it was seen as a mantra. It had been ridiculed all around the world in terms of road transport policies, but what it did, it put an incredible, absolute emphasis on safety. And of course, there's always trade-offs, and the trade-off is safety versus functionality and communications, or connectivity. And that's what roads are all about, is connectivity between communities. And this seems to be a classic case where the balance got wrong. And of course, Chris Hipkins, upon assuming the prime ministership under the previous government, dropped it in day one. It's one thing he actually cancelled Road to Zero in day one, or the first week, but it lives on. Part of that policy also was the incredibly prescriptive deployment under traffic management regulations of orange cones. And we're seeing where that's taken us relative to other jurisdictions. So there's all these vestiges of that Road to Zero policy. And again, it's sort of excessive emphasis on safety. And safety is very important. It must be a prime consideration.
but there is always a trade-off between connectivity between communities and functionality. Otherwise, you'd say that cars can't go more than 1 kilometre an hour, if you went absolutely. So I guess my question is, do you see this as a culture issue within NZTA and a vestige of that road to zero policy?
Thank you, Ken, for your question. Nice to meet you again all these years after our forestry connections 40 years ago. There is a clear issue somewhere here of refusing to communicate with this community up Wright Road. Perhaps we upset them with Rochelle's petition to the select committee, which was the only avenue we saw at the time to actually have a conversation with these people. If you cast your eyes at the screen, you'll see a car parked on top of the centre barrier a month or so ago in a very wet night. To me, that says this intersection installation, he was northbound, is unsafe, difficult to negotiate. The data, when we look into the NZTA data, the CAS data, Rochelle's graph shows when we had the right turn bay, no accidents. Along the highway now, accidents at the roundabouts, partly because people travelling on State Highway 2 who aren't locals are not expecting people to do a complete U-turn at a roundabout. The Moreton Road roundabouts vegetation obscures indicators. And I have personally stopped at more than 10 times to give way when I had right of way on the roundabout. The Matahui roundabout is a double lane roundabout. There is no passing bay apart from the one just before Apata heading south. It's used as a passing lane on the inside. It's very dangerous. And every time I come to Tauranga, I am very careful because people whistle through there. Trucks are going slow round the roundabouts, down to 20 kilometres an hour to negotiate them, and people take the opportunity to overtake, never thinking that someone's doing a U-turn. That's why we're seeing these accidents, I'm sure. Can we talk to these people? We'd love to. But there's this, I feel unsafe. Well, I'm sure no one sitting in this room feels unsafe. And I'm sure that we haven't done anything to be unsafe. Yes, there's a community out there, and yes, there's been some wild statements made, but clearly a right turn bay, as installed in 2021, was a safe access to this highway. And for the life of me, I can't see pragmatically why the barrier just can't be shortened up at our end and at the other end to allow the big trucks in and out of Seeker Pack House and the winery. It's a small consideration. Don't take the whole barrier away. Just make the access available.
Councillor Murray-Benge. The point of clarification, just use the microphone because this is being live streamed to a large number of people at the moment. What was yours, Councillor Murray-Benge?
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I drove up Wright Road the other day just to make sure that I understood what people were saying. And Mrs. Taylor, 8 Ks up, was telling me how dangerous it was and how it used to be so easy to use and why had they changed it. And then her husband going round Moreton Road roundabout, dangerous because they're expecting that when you're coming from Te Puke, Kadikadi, that you're going straight to Tauranga, and they don't expect anybody to go round the roundabout. Sir, I think NZTA is doing a wonderful job in Tauriko, and the work they're doing there is phenomenal. But I think, sir, it really is important that the leadership of NZTA in this region has changed drastically. And I don't think they know what they're doing. And I would strongly recommend, sir, that you write in the authority of this Regional Transport Committee to the Minister of Transport, Christopher Bishop, and ask him to who do you go to make sure that the safety work on Wright Road should be implemented forthwith? You've got enough experience to know that often NZTA changes its mind and does titivating work. You only have to look at the work in Bethlehem from Wright Road up where the cycleway went. It wasn't supposed to go there, but they found the money to do it. And I'm quite sure that this lovely man, who is now the chairman of the Regional Transport Committee.
Councillor, it is drifting into a statement rather than a point of clarification. So,
Right, sir, my
and I know we
strong,
are in the midst of the silly season, so if we can just sort of, you know.
I've got too much knowledge,
No.
sir, and I do apologise. Please, could you write to the minister himself? The select committee is a confused body and it takes too long to get a decision from it. And I'm sure that Christopher Bishop would respond as quickly as possible. And he needs to do something about his team here in this region.
We can't resolve to do anything from a public forum, but I'm sure at some point in the meeting today, the matter will be woven in.
I'll make a comment on that.
yes.
I think it's important.
Honourable Ken Shirley, then Greg Pert.
I think it's important that we are fair. My understanding is, and I may be wrong, my understanding is that it is not our local regional representative who chose not. He was instructed from higher up the food chain of NZTA to disengage and not participate. So I don't think we should lay the blame at our local representative. I think the order may have come from further up the food chain.
Thanks for that clarification. Greg Pert.
My name's Greg Pert, Transliquid Logistics, the freight advisor for the regional council here. And I just had a quick chat to Ken, and look, NZTA prides itself on data collection and making decisions on data. And your data is correct. That tells the story, I believe, on that right-hand turn. So why is the data not being drilled down on even more to actually finalise this decision-making process?
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a comment to that? It's not our data, it's NZTA's data that we have looked into.
Rochelle, quickly,
That was just one example of skewed data. We've got hours and hours of skewed data, and there's so many ways they present it to you. And I would just honestly caution you going forward with projects. They'll come up with a statistic. Just be really mindful of what it is and what the impacts are later on for people, because it's years and dates, and it's huge impacts to people.
I don't think there's any further points of clarification. Michael, 1 minute. Oh, hold on. Can you keep it brief, please?
Very brief. Because the NZTA process of preparing for these projects is so thorough, it's very clear when you look through all the information that if they had just chosen option B3 instead of 4A, they would have been able to achieve a high safety outcome and not had all of this pushback from the community. And so really we need to look at why that decision was made, because we're talking about millions of dollars and people's lives. So,
Michael, 1 minute, take home message, summary, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, thank you everyone for listening to us, and we are very passionate about this. We're not going to let it go away, and we'd really like to see the Regional Council support us and put a resolution forward at this meeting, if possible, to continue the fight that we have had here and to ask NZTA to engage with us. We are not the ogres they're made out to be, and we believe that there are solutions that we can have here that will work for everybody and be safe. The data proves it, and it is their data, not our data. So we believe that a lot of the data that I've presented to the board has been skewed to to work the way they want it to work and not to look at the actual facts. So if you could please do that for us, we'd much appreciate it. And the other thing, if you can let us know if you do something, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Rochelle, 2 minutes, nothing. Thank you to the public gallery. Thank you to the presenters. What I'm going to do now is adjourn this meeting for 5 minutes, seconded by the Honourable Ken Shirley, to allow the politicians at the table to engage with the public. But we'll reconvene at 10:30, everybody.
Or you do, can I say that on State Highway 29, I've worked with Adam Francis, the safety engineer from NZTA, to get right-hand turns off the state highway, and they've been wonderful. And so getting to the right person is the answer.
Everybody. In terms of the apologies, I'd moved them. Honourable Ken Shirley had seconded them. I'm happy to accept Dan Kneebone's apology. Wonderful, thank you. In terms of items not on the agenda or late items, there are none. There are no changes to the order of business. Any declarations of conflict of interest? Anybody? There being none, over to page 8, everybody. The minutes of the last meeting, which was held way back on the 9th of May. So would someone with a really good memory move those as a reasonably true and accurate record of that meeting? Mayor Tunu, are you happy to?
Happy to.
Happy to. Honourable Ken Shirley, you happy to second?
Yep.
Any matters arising from those minutes, anybody, before I put them? They've been circulated. I'll put them. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Moving on to item 7.1. We have a Tawa Awa Restoration Strategy Group draft strategy document that is coming to us as a presentation. And so if you would just like to introduce yourself, ladies, and just ensure that your microphones are on. And you're just noting that on Zoom we have Jake Barbarich, who is available to provide a response, and he is from KiwiRail. Okay. So, into your presentation,
Okay.
and is happy to comment at the end
Thank
of it.
you.
So the floor is yours. So would you like to have a free run, or would you like questions through it, or do you want
Sounds
questions at the end?
brilliant.
Would you like
Sounds brilliant,
questions at
Mr.
the end?
Chair,
Questions
that we
at
have
the
a
end?
free run and questions at the end, because
So-
by that stage you probably would have all forgotten and fallen asleep with your eyes open.
Okay.
But tuatahi me mihi atu ki a koe te tia mana, Councillor Lyle Thurston, ko koe te tahi o ngā toki no Rotorua, nā reira ki a koe nei tā māua nei mihi, mihi mai i te rōpū o te rautaki wai o Tarawera Awa, atu I tira ki a tātou o tātou nei hua, ngā wahine marae kura, Faylene, Fire Leslie, I runga anō I te hui topa, a mea Tania Tapsor, koutou katoa. Nei tā maua nei mihi mai o hātu. Ko ai tēnei tokorua nei, ko Francis Taina Kore Curtis, ko hau te project manager me ki, mō te Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group, huri hia ki tō tātou nei reo Pākehā. Just really quickly to everybody around the table, thank you for taking a bit of time this morning just to have a listen to what we are doing in our neck of the woods for the Tarawera Awa. So I'm the project manager for the project team that is developing a legislated strategy to help clean up, sorry, my phone's going off, help clean up as a collective, the Tarawera Awa from the top of the inlet outside of Lake Tarawera, inlet into Tarawera Awa itself, the river mouth, and then all the way through to Matata to Te Awa o Te Atua. So that's where we are taking a Tarawera wide catchment approach to cleaning up. And so under Te Mano Ngāti Rangitahi settlement, we have a forum similar to this, probably different faces around the boardroom, and they comprise, just really quickly, of the following important members. So we have 4 iwi that are all treaty settlement iwi, which is Ngāti Rangitahi, Ngāti Awa, Ngāti Tūwharetoa ki Kawerau, and Ngāti Mākeno. So we have representatives, their chairs from each of those areas for most of them. Then we also have our 3 councils, and so we have Fire Leslie that sits on the forum, herself and Mayor Luka for Whakatane District Council. We have Mayor Faylene Tunui, who is there for Kawerau District Council, and we also have Phil Thomas and Councillor Greg Brown from Rotorua Lakes Council that is represented, and Plenty Regional Council with Chair Doug Leader that is part of that. But mihi atu ki a koe, Councillor Ken Shirley. So that's what comprises our group, and so that it is a legislated group to develop a strategy. And the strategy, very similar to the Rangitaiki Forum, how that has been developed. It is now going through a 10-year review. And so we're just in the very early stages of developing this strategy here. I'm going to just shift this korero over to Jane Walden, who is our secretariat on the forum, and then we'll start to talk through the objectives themselves. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora koutou, ko Jane Walden home. My name is Jane Walden. I provide secretariat services to the Tawa Awa Restoration Strategy Group and a member of the project team. My key role is actually undertaking engagement in the development of the strategy document. We've been engaging for nearly 2 years now with stakeholders across the Rangitaiki catchment, and you may be sitting here wondering, what has this got to do with the Regional Transport Committee? That will become clear when we start going through the strategic objectives. There's one in particular that we think may be of interest to this committee, and we would really appreciate your feedback about that. So I'm just going to bring up, hopefully you've got handouts of all of the strategic objectives. There are 14 altogether. We're not going to go through each one individually with you. We're going to focus really on the last 4, which is to do with marata and te awa o te atua, but we just wanted to let you know that these are the first 5 of the draft objectives that we've been out with, working with our community to pull together. These are the second 5 objectives. These are mainly all to do with the river itself. And then the next 4 objectives are to do with te awa o te atua. And I'm going to hand over to Francis to have a kōrero about that.
Jane, just to say the objectives will be circulated to all the members with the PowerPoint after the meeting. So
Thank you.
For you, Mr. Chair, just to clarify for those members who weren't aware, te awa o te atua is referred to as the Marata Lagoon.
Okay, so now we have, so in our last forum, prior to everybody closing up shop for elections, I can kind of see some of our people who are part of that process around going to elections. We had our very last forum on the 8th of August that a few of us attended in this room, and from there we were able to land on 4 new objectives which are now being presented up here, and so they are pertinent to te awa o te atua and what is sitting in Ngāti Rangitahi's treaty settlement as part of the cleanup, an apology from the Crown as part of the settlement, but also how it is that we might do some cleaning up and what that means for us in terms of growth. So there's some kind of connected dots that we really want you to just think about. So objective 11, it says here, enhance natural flow regimes to and within te awa o te atua, enhancing the mauri of the wetland and providing for ecological restoration, culture and community reconnection and economic potential for matata. Now that's a bit of that's a mouthful. I'm sure we can all hear that, and there sounds like there's quite a number of things, pieces of work that are probably going to fall out of that over time. So not only are we talking about restoration of, well, there is a level of contamination that is sitting in Marata Lagoon. If you drive through very quickly, you might see that nobody swims in there. And so if we are to clean that up, that area up, there may be provision to develop economically in the area of Matata. And Objective 12 is proactively enabling economic opportunities, positioning Marata as a premier eco-cultural tourism destination and gateway to the Eastern Bay of Plenty, including through advancing the restoration of the mauri of te awa o te atua to support sustainable local economic development, cultural enterprise and a strong sense of community pride. So what falls out of that in our first sets of thinking surrounding that has been the discussion that nobody ever stops in Maratā unless you're going to stop. There's a really great shop. It's called the Auntie's Takeaway, and you might stop there for a milkshake, but then you'll move on to Whakatane. So now we're starting to have conversations around how do we, rather than just zooming past that space from Tauranga or through to Whakatane and vice versa, how do we actually then turn it into such a space that it's going to be eye-catching and people are going to stop. They're going to be able to, whether they have at restaurants. I know that there's been discussion around it looking like a small Tito, if you've been up to Tito lately, as well as trying to unlock some of the potential around growth in Maratā. Currently, there are about 210 dwellings in the Maratā environment, but there is actually potentially land that is available to build and to provide growth. So that's where some of number 12 comes from. 13 is to ensure that the community of Maratā and its surrounds are safe, protected and resilient to the effects of changing climate, including flood risks, coastal inundation and erosion and debris flows. So we know that back in 2005, when we had the debris that had come down off Whakapau Kōrero and then into and pushed out a number of our homes down on Richmond Road, which is out on the front, and boy, that was such a catastrophe. So if we were to ensure that they are all, there needs to be feasibility studies taken and undertaken around in that space to be able to build up that area so that it is protected and safe, and from our changing climate. So we're working currently on projects with GNS around climate adaptation. This is Ngāti Rangitahi as well as a couple of our other iwi that I've mentioned earlier. And so it kind of made sense because it's in a very unique space, Maratā, and the natural hazards that it's kind of confronted with. We've had this discussion with Regional Council throughout the journey of the development of the strategy, hence the implementation of number 13. Then we have the last one, which is number 14, provide for safe and protected road and rail networks through Maratā and alongside Te Awa Te Atua, resilient to the effects of changing climate change. Okay, so right now, and I've been living permanently down in Maratā since probably March of this year, where we bought a home. There is as you know, we have the rail network that leaves from Kawerau Terminal through to the port with all of the logs that have been felled. They've been primed up and then they've been taken on that through that rail corridor. What we're trying to think about is how do we leverage off some of that, but making sure that the rail networks are safe, that they're protected, but we're able to do a number of different things in Maratā that are not going to be impacted by what's currently happening with the rail network, railways, and we're actually not part of that. So on the strategy, we want to try and build in a mechanism so that we can have the ability to participate in that space. And so that's going to require further conversation with KiwiRail, Waka Kotahi as an example. And the other parts of this is that because we are going through a reticulation project, meaning that we want Maratā to be reticulated rather than on septic tanks, because currently there are 98 of them out of the 210 homes that are failing, then we need to do something about that. And so a lot of that thinking has been, for the most part, embedded into these 4 particular objectives, very still in draft form, but we thought we need to be able to bring it to this forum so that we are signalling that this is what it will potentially be looking like, especially as we go down the track to have them approved by the forum that it goes to, as well as it going out for notification. I'm going to leave that there, but before questions are asked, can I ask if either Mayor Faylene or Deputy Mayor Leslie Amick have any comments to that to support?
Deputy Mayor Imink.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody, and thank you, ladies, for your presentation. And I think probably point 14 is the one that's most affected with this community. And it was my suggestion that when we were developing that, the supply route security, obviously, from the state highway and the rail network, with this project being undertaken, was reason enough just to bring it to the attention of the committee, considering who's sitting around the table. So I don't think there's any other ask of the committee except to be aware of it, and we're talking about rail and road security, that this group might be also just kept in the loop about some of those plans.
No, nothing further, Chair. That really was the suggestion from the Tarawera Awa Forum.
Back to you,
Kia ora.
Francis.
Just a little bit of stakeholder feedback we thought we'd share with you. So these are from some of our main stakeholders that we've been meeting regularly with, and how they feel about the project. So we need to make sure that all those areas that are already discharging into the lagoon, that it has the ability to take that. So one of the aspirations of the task is to rejoin the Tarawera River back to the lagoon, and then have the lagoon empty out into the ocean, which it used to do before the Tarawera River was cut directly out to sea. Another is have a look at what individual farmers are already doing and see if it aligns with what the TARs are trying to achieve. So Brett Mountford is the Federated Farmers President for the Eastern Bay of Plenty, and we've been working closely with him. We're looking at having a memorandum of understanding, which we're calling kōtuku agreements, with federated farmers and farmers in that catchment, to work directly with them about environmental enhancement and ensuring the protection of the mauri of the awa. And just this last slide is just the influence and policy operations that the strategy document will have once it's notified and then becomes operative. So down the centre we have the treaty legislation, which was Ngāti Rangitihi's treaty settlement. Under that, the Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group was formed as a co-governance committee, and we as the project team are in the process of creating the document. On the left, you'll see the current RMA process. So we have national policy statements, the regional policy statement, and you can see that the Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group document will have direct influence over time to the regional policy statement. And then over time, through that process, it will have influence over values, limits and actions.
Jane, any questions or comments from colleagues? Being none, Jake, are you online? Did you want to say a few words? Jake, are you there? He is online, hiding. Yep. Jake, yep. Did you want to just introduce yourself, Jake, and before you make any pertinent comments? Morena, good to have you with us.
Yeah, kia ora team. Yeah, and just quickly, kia ora Jake Barbridge, toku ingoa. I'm the Regional Infrastructure Manager for the Upper North Island, covering Northland, Greater Auckland, Waikato and the Bay of Plenty. You know, KiwiRail. So a really good piece of work, and yeah, here to answer any questions or supportive of that. I know the Matata area really well, and yeah, I was around at that catastrophe time in 2005, I think it was. So definitely here to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jake. Any questions before I hand over to Oliver to make some final comments? Councillor McMillan.
Kia ora, just wondering, in terms of the rail and the road, what where is it at with resilience currently? Like how much work needs to happen to get some kind of climate forecast security on the rail and road through Matata?
Yeah, I think it's very much at its infancy stage. We have been working alongside Whakatane District Council, the climate change team, to just gauge what historical feasibility has been done in the past post the 2005 catastrophe. What does it now look like today, and what are their, I guess, their thoughts in the around with WDC, because they have quite a bit of knowledge and experience in that space for us. What might that look like moving forward? So we've only just started initial discussions. I guess in this space, what we are hoping to do is to pick people's brains, and maybe Jake is one of those people, as we start to pull together some actions that will need to fall out of these objectives over time. And I take your point, Councillor. I think that we need to be cognizant of what you're thinking there, what work has been done and how might we be able to formulate them into some actions moving forward once we know more.
Well, thank you.
Oh, Deputy Mayor Imink.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You, allow me to make a statement. Just
By
to
all
add value.
means,
Thank you.
it's election time. Go for it.
I think really the overall issue is that Matata is often dealt with in an ad hoc way. And because of the rail and all of the produce and goods that are coming through from East Coast all the way down the State High and in through Kawerau on the train, it was really just important that with this group, which has got a treaty settlement arrangement around it by the Crown, that we use this group and this collective group to make sure that that route is as safe as possible. There was another event earlier in the year, the mitigation work that I'd done beforehand managed to get that cleaned up. The work did what it was supposed to do, but we've got more and more coming, as we know. So it was really just to inform everyone about what's happening in Matata. Yeah.
Greg Pert.
I think also to back that up, it's a major freight corridor from Gisborne right through by road. And, in times of crisis, roads are generally open.
Further comments, anyone? Oliver. Oh, beg your pardon. Her Worship, Mayor Tunu.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, ladies, for coming in. Look, some of the logic of inviting the project team from Ngāti Rangitihi to come along to this forum was, while the settlement for the iwi was for the care and restoration of Te Awa o Te Atua or the Marata Lagoon, there was some broader thinking, Chair, around some of the contributing factors that might impact on that ability to help or hinder the restoration work. I'm really interested, of course I would be, being from Kawerau, given that there was a failure of the East Coast main trunk line back in January 2023, and all of those products that would normally move along the KiwiRail line were shifted onto road, and the impact that extra cartage has, I'd be really interested in working alongside KiwiRail to ensure perhaps Councillor McMillan's question around resilience may be better addressed by those who are kaitiaki of those assets, and to see how we might be able to help that as well. I see there's a reference in our strategy of roads also alongside the awa, our tarawera awa, our precious awa tapu. So really wonderful to have you here. We've had some far broader considerations, Chair, in our other forum, and we're really proud of supporting our Te Rangitihi and our other iwi in that way. Kia ora.
Oliver.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Through you, Chair, the committee will be aware that resilience and safety are significant focus areas of the current regional land transport plan, and there will be the opportunity for the committee to consider initiatives in the preparation of the next plan, noting that these activities that have been mentioned today sit with NZTA and KiwiRail, but clearly there are some significant synergies with what you've heard this morning and the outcomes that you're seeking from your current plan.
Francis, final comments?
Yay, it's Friday. Look, I think we've heard some really positive comments that have been presented from this forum. I really want to just be able once again, take this time to acknowledge the time that you've given both myself and Jane as part of our project team. We're a small project team of 4. So who is missing away from our team of 2? We have a hydrologist, Dr. Emily Afoa, and also our strategy writer, who is an environmental planner by trade, Kiri Topaween. So I really want to be able to acknowledge them, but also you people sitting around here, because listening to what I listened to this morning before we sat here at this table, it's a hard gig. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Kia ora.
So Deputy Mayor Imink and Mayor Tuna, are you happy to move and second that we receive the presentation and note its contents? It's been moved and seconded. I'll put it. All those in favour, please say aye. You can smell sausage rolls. The morning tea's arrived. And I suggest that we reconvene at 11:15 and Francis and Jane join us, please. Thank you.
we've got a presentation that will come up shortly. The main purpose of this presentation is just to raise awareness. It's very much in the early days, but it has great opportunities and benefits that will be important for this region as well as New Zealand. So just a bit about KiwiRail. We're a vital part of the transport system. We carry lots of export products and domestic freight. In fact, one fun fact is that we carry 25% of New Zealand's export products. So we're an extremely important part of the economy, and particularly for this part of New Zealand, the freight flows coming in and out of the port are very, very important. I probably don't need to talk too much about that, seeing everyone will know about that. But further, it's connections to the hinterland. So obviously the Murupara branch, Kinleith, and further afield that the railway network connects to. So KiwiRail and trains are already a low emission transport mode, and obviously the electrification project aims to decarbonise the transport system further, providing a really, really useful lever to make our services, our transport system attractive, particularly for export products. So we're seeing an increasing demand by overseas customers and exporters wanting to have a decarbonised supply chain. So this work is looking to help provide an option for that. So rail is already 60% produces 60% less emissions than road transport today, just because it uses less energy to move on the steel wheels, as well as the way that the gradients and the curves of the track mean that it's very, very efficient. And through electrification, we could go to effectively a net zero situation. As I mentioned before, sorry, this map's a bit hard to see. It's about the Golden Triangle. So the Golden Triangle is the busiest part of the railway network for KiwiRail. So connecting up Auckland, Hamilton and Tauranga. And so if we focus on decarbonisation efforts in this part of the network, we're going to achieve the greatest results first and foremost. Back in 2023, we received funding to undertake a business case to investigate electrification. So we're going through a process. Sorry, that's a bit better now. But the business case has been very comprehensive, looking at various volume and capacity scenarios, different electrification options and how the concept of operations of those would each work, through to what are the duty cycles of locomotives and rolling stock, depending on the various options. And then depending on the options, it has different infrastructure requirements. So I'll get shortly, but electric trains, some types of electric trains, they need overhead wires. And if you use battery trains, then you've got static charging equipment that's required. We're in the final phases of the business case at the moment, where we're just looking at all the options and all the permutations and preparing the business case, which we're looking to have wrapped up in the near future. The preferred solution that we're looking at, a strong solution, is to go for a hybrid locomotive. So I'll just talk through this. The idea would be that it runs off the overhead wires when it's available, and you can see above the locomotive there touching the wire, that's a thing called a pantograph. So that's where the energy would come from. We've already got quite a bit of that in the network, so we'd utilise that where it's available. And then with the bits of the track that don't have overhead, we would utilise batteries. And we've worked out that 4 to 4.5 megawatt hour batteries are the sweet spot, both what's technically available and what can also fit on the locomotive and still meet our narrow gauge track and clearance profile constraints. The other thing that I'll point out is that Operationally wise, it's really important that we have a cab on each end of the locomotive. So the nature of our operations mean that you want to be able to journey to one end, and then without having to turn the locomotive around, you can basically take it to the other end of the train, hook it on and go back again. So that's the most effective and efficient operation. And you'll notice our modern locomotives that we've got today, the L fleet and the DM fleet, they have double cabs on their locomotives. And when the train goes into a braking situation, it's a bit like a hybrid car. The energy from the brakes gets put back into the battery, so you're recycling a lot of that energy rather than just going to waste. And that bottom right-hand picture there shows when the train's off the overhead wire system, the pantograph just comes down, and typically that's an automatic procedure. It would just be triggered by the signalling system. So it's a smooth through operation when you travel from different parts of the network that have overhead. This is our current network. As I mentioned, we've already got an amount of overhead, and it currently goes all the way down to Pukekohe. And then there's a section of overhead that goes from Hamilton, Tarapa, all the way down to Palmerston North. But then the sort of dash blue lines there, they don't have overhead wires on them. And so through our study, we've identified that all options will require and benefit by having the gap between Pukekohe and Hamilton completed with overhead wires. So that's about 84 kilometres odd. And there might be the need, depending on the configuration of the locomotive, to put a bit of overhead on the East Coast main trunk to Tauranga. And if that was the case, the preference would be that we put it at the Hamilton end, because there's a good grid exit point and good power supply there. So that's something that we'd need to do more studies on, but we're just ideally we wouldn't have any given the cost of the overhead wires, but if we do, that's where we would put it. So this is what the completed network would look like for the Golden Triangle. So you'd have overhead all the way from Auckland, effectively all the way down to Palmerston North. And a train that was, say, travelling from Auckland to Tauranga would travel under the overhead wire using the overhead for power all the way to Hamilton. Then the pantograph would come off. It would travel on battery power over to Mount Maunganui or Sulphur Point. While the train's being turned around, the batteries will be charged, and then we'll travel on battery power back to Hamilton and back on the overhead wires. The other thing that I'll point out is by extending the overhead south of Pukekohe, that lays open the opportunity to extend the metro services further south. So given this, the business case has been focused on the freight side of it. We've identified it as an opportunity, but it's possibly something that we want to explore later on. And certainly the electric infrastructure that we're building could be used for regional or long distance passenger trains should that be desired in the future. But that would be for others to work with KiwiRail to figure that through. So or maybe something this committee would like to discuss. And then moving on to the feeder lines, one of the benefits of this option of the hybrid locomotive is that same locomotive has the functionality to serve all the feeder lines all the way up to Murupara and Kinleith. And so it doesn't mean we have to have a second class of locomotive. And like anyone would know, if you start doubling up on your types and differences of your fleet, your training or you need extra training for your staff. You've got to carry different inventory. There's extra complications with the operation. So taking a long-term perspective, assuming this is rolled out over a period of time, we would see it going to the wider Golden Triangle feeder lines. And further to that, we've also worked out that the same class of locomotive could serve all North Island lines. So so thinking long term and thinking sustainably. So where we're up to, as I mentioned, we're just sort of coming to the end of the the business case phase. It's a long lead time project, so we just need to work with stakeholders to figure out what the next steps will be. It will obviously need funding for the various stages, but we'll work that through when the time comes. So we're proposing that we do another investigation business case phase to fully justify the implementation funds before we go into a build phase. And I think I skimmed over it on the previous slide. We're targeting having this work completed by 2035, which lines up with a number of greenhouse gas emission targets for New Zealand and KiwiRail.
Walter, just one thing. This is being live streamed today, and I see the fine print at the bottom right says commercial in confidence.
Yeah, no, just ignore that. I wasn't able to delete it off the footnote. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm not worried. I'm more worried about you. That's all.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Noted. So is that the presentation? Is it?
Yes, that's it. Happy to take any questions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Questions or comments, colleagues? Councillor Von Dadelson, then Honourable Ken Shirley.
Yeah, I think you might have said it, but I missed it. What was the cost of actually doing the overhead, but from Pukekohe down to through that gap?
Oh, we're just finalising the cost now, and
just
look, I'm reluctant to say in a public forum, given that it hasn't been fully reviewed, but it's a significant amount, but compared to other decarbonisation projects, it's probably reasonably reasonable.
Honourable Ken Shirley.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for the presentation. With the concept of standardising the locos, the EH electric hybrid, would they be the same ones that were announced recently that would cover the commuter passenger trains from Upper Hutt to Masterton, beyond the Wellington electrification, and also from Waikanae to Palmerston North? Would they be the same units, would they?
No, they're passenger trains. So for the benefit of people who are not familiar with them, they are electric trains, very similar to what we're proposing here, where they run under the overhead when it's available, but then run on battery power for the rest of the journey. So
wouldn't be the EH logo, right?
No, it'd be a different. This is designed for freight trains, so heavy freight trains, but it uses the same concepts and technology.
My other question was, a few years back, KiwiRail was doing a lot of work on the potential for hydrogen fuel cells as an alternative to electric, and globally, there's a lot of rail systems have gone hydrogen fuel cells, as have ships and even aircraft now. Has that been rejected, or is that still being explored?
Yeah, we looked at that really, really carefully. As you say, it has been explored. There hasn't been huge pickup around the world. There's been some cases where people have built prototype hydrogen trains, but that's about as far as they've gone. But what it comes down to for us is we want to leverage off the existing electrification system. And the key fact is that to create hydrogen, you need a lot of electricity. And then there's a lot of complicated handling to get it to a train or a truck or anything. And then by the time you actually turn the wheel of the train or the truck, you've lost 80% of that energy. Versus if you go direct electrification, you only lose 20% through that system. So from an energy efficiency, it's the way to go.
Bishop Mayor Denia, then Councillor McMillan.
Just got a series of questions. I guess is the reason for the battery because you can't get the room for the pantograph through the tunnel? Is that basically it, or?
No, there's enough room through the Kaimai tunnel. The clearances on the East Coast main trunk are pretty good, actually. The main thing is that putting up overhead wires costs a lot of money. So it's not just the overhead wires themselves, but it's all the power feeds and grid exit points, and they're very, very expensive. So if we can find the optimal balance, and you might recall I've mentioned if we were going to put overhead wires on the ECMT, we'll put it at the Hamilton end, and there's a grid exit point at Ruakura, which is there now, and so that would be the cheapest and easiest point to hook into the network. Okay, so given the does look like we're moving to electrification, does that open the door to passenger rail, which is always an issue for diesel going through the tunnel and so on? Yeah, certainly. If you move to electric freight trains, it makes operating passenger trains through the Kaimai tunnel more viable.
Thank you.
Councillor McMillan.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, just following on from Mayor Denya's last comment there. In terms of passenger rail, so you've got this 2035 for the freight rail electrification. I know there's been a presentation to Project Future-Proof. We have smart growth equivalent over this side of the hill. I haven't actually seen that presentation yet. I'm hoping to have a look at it. But are you, with that business case, also looking at, because I know they've done a plan of, Hamilton Tauranga transport plan. Is the passenger rail part of KiwiRail's scoping, and have you done work there, and do you have sort of timeframes and costs and things for that already, or?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that work, but what I can say is that we've done quite a bit of operational modelling and looked at the timetable in a lot of detail. There's special software that does that, and we've looked at different train volumes, but then also put in the options for running passenger trains.
Yeah.
And with relatively minor improvements of the loops and the signalling system, there is endless capacity before you have to do something really drastic. So the options there. It's not KiwiRail's prime role to initiate regional or passenger services, but we will happily help people if they're interested in working with councils like we do in other parts of New Zealand.
Great, thank you.
Further questions, colleagues? Thank you for that update. Much appreciated. So it's been moved by Her Worship Mayor Tunui and Deputy Mayor Imming that we receive that report and update and note its contents, and thank you for your contribution, Walter. Keeping on a railway theme, Lisa. Welcome, Lisa. Lisa's the Acting Group Manager for Government Engagement at KiwiRail. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having us here. How do I manage this?
Help's on its way.
Oh, okay. I was pushing an arrow, but I got confused. Thank you. Go. I'm working. Oh, too fast. Just a quick update today on the current RNIP, which is the Rail Network Investment Program. That's the way that KiwiRail gets funded in a 3-year cycle to ensure that we are able to carry out planned maintenance activity through the network and respond to any unplanned events when they occur, which is always challenging for everybody, including for roads and rail when something goes wrong. But it gives us the ability to plan ahead, provide better value for money, etc. So we're in the second RNIP period. The legislation was changed 4 years ago now to enable KiwiRail to be funded in this way. And we've been through one cycle of the RNIP very successfully. We had great outcome from that, meeting most of our KPIs there, and where we didn't, understanding what those challenges were to help build on that for RNIP number 2, which is the one that we're in right now. So we've just completed our first year of the second RNIP, and for the Waikato and Bay of Plenty, obviously from a system perspective, one rail line going all the way through. So we look at that in priority. We've spent over $40 million in our renewals program, which was the plan, which is excellent. And we've ended up completing additional track renewals over what we initially thought we would do. Some of that is because we need to, and we find that out afterwards, and we update our asset systems, and these come out as priorities. So we continue 9 turnouts where trains can actually reliably move and cross tracks. Those have been replaced, and we've also continued our program of grinding in major plant replacements. Grinding kind of keeps the profile of the rail right so that we don't have incidents and trains falling off tracks and all of those nasty things. There's also other things that we deal with through the network, and a good example there is the slope stability works on Bryce Street, Hamilton, which we've done on the ECMT to ensure that we can continue to run services on that line. Obviously, anything that fails anywhere on the line terminates the service for the line in general. So that's the first year of the ARNIP. We've got quite a lot of work planned through to June 27, which is when this ARNIP completes. I've put a list in there. I'm sure the presentation will be circulated so you can have a good look at it, but there's all of this is done through an asset management system and assessment of what the most critical works are. So there's not necessarily massive numbers of lots of things that we can achieve with the funding when you think on a national basis, but a lot of these works will be incredibly important as we go through, and we keep plugging away through many ARNIPs. We will improve resilience overall and continue to improve the overall track quality, which is the plan. And I will point out there is Matata mentioned in there, just for those who are interested. Bridge 125 south of Matata. So yeah, and Jake and the infrastructure team, obviously from our organisation, help to execute that plan. The next ARNIP is in the planning phase, and we're kind of early days with that, hoping to have some solid work go in to get us a draft ARNIP by the middle of next year, which is a year out from the ARNIP period starting, and when we will need to start funding activity for that. The ARNIP is actually a 3-year program, but we do a 10-year forecast, and we've reset our forecasts every year so that we make sure that updated information through the asset management system is incorporated and we don't work on things that we shouldn't, etc. So continued focus on efficient proposals to maximise customer outcomes. In particular, we're really focused on making sure that we can efficiently run freight through the country from the bottom of the south to the top of the north, hopefully, on a regular basis, and that it's resilient and reliable, and that, you know, people like Fonterra, who are one of our key customers and biggest customers, are able to rely on us to get their freight to the ports and in and out of the ports, who are also major customers of ours. We expect the Golden Triangle will remain a priority for New Zealand. There is a new GPS that will be written. NZTA are working on that at the moment. KiwiRail will be involved, not quite yet, but soon. And we don't expect that Golden Triangle would fall off that no matter what political party is in place. In terms of ARNIP 3, which is the next one, which is 2027, so July 27 through to June 2030, the key milestones that we've got is mid to late 26 next year. We'd like to have an outline of what we intend the ARNIP to look like so that we can consult. And final ARNIP completion has to be early to mid 2027. The Minister of Transport has to approve the ARNIP. He consults with our shareholding ministers, which are the Minister for Rail and the Minister of Finance. And that has to be published somewhere around mid 2027 when the funding clicks in. So that's sort of our plan. Alongside this, of course, we've got stakeholder engagement plans. We are taking a fresh look at those, making sure that we've got a customer council's input, etc. So that's going to be quite a challenging process given the size of this country and the time that we have to prepare things. So we're happy to continue to engage and understand what the Transport Committee plans are and priorities, and where possible to collaborate to make sure that they align. Hey, the New Zealand Upgrade Program, I've put this in here simply to recognise that getting produce and product from our ports through to inland freight hubs and other places north is very important. The New Zealand Upgrade Program has funded 3 significant projects. The first one that completed was the Papakura to Pukekohe electrification, which Walter mentioned earlier, and that is fully complete now. Passenger trains are running between Pukekohe and Pepakura, which is fantastic. The second one is the third main line, Wirritiki Park. That's actually a series of little projects, including a third main. And what that does is remove the freight trains from the passenger network at critical times. So when there are timetabling challenges with capacity in the passenger network, those will be resolved with the third main. So that's fantastic. But also that involved upgrading some facilities out at Key Park and some signalling and resolving some issues around South Auckland with the network, including upgrading Middlemore Station and improving the access to Middlemore Hospital. The last program in the NZ upgrade program for Auckland is the Drury Stations project, and that's in full swing now. We started construction late last year for 2 of the stations at Drury and Pairata. Those are proceeding very well, and we expect them to be operational in early 2026, so Q1 2026. The last part of that sentence I would qualify with Auckland Transport and Auckland One Rail operating those services, so they will need to be to do all of their work as well in that time frame to make that happen. So that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're working with them on. But obviously updates to come as the construction completes. I've put a couple of photos there. Top right, you've got drone footage of Pairata Station taken very recently. You can see the roundabout on the State Highway towards the left there. That station, which is actually off to the right, is incredibly large. It's one of those ones that's got 350 car parks and lots of ability for people in surrounding areas to come in and take train services into the centre of Auckland. I know that Auckland Transport are talking about express trains that will be enabled through this South Auckland area, which is fantastic, cutting the time to get into the city for those people who live south. And at the bottom, you've got a footbridge that's been erected recently at Drury Station. Again, another very large station, another car parking, bus interchanges, all those sorts of things incorporated. We're well into the construction for those 2 stations, and as I say, proceeding right on schedule, working collaboratively with NZTA on the roading infrastructure. And we've had a program team working across those 2, the road and rail aspects, for about 4 years now. So we're pretty well established. Ngakaroa Station is a little bit further behind. That one, we had a challenge to the location of the station from one of the housing developers in the area. KiwiRail was successful in that we were proven to have followed the right process for engagement, and that the determination of the location followed the feedback given. So that unfortunately caused a delay in the construction of that station, and we're hoping that construction will be complete in 2026 and able to open in early 27. So sadly a little bit further behind, but with the other 2 stations sort of in the area, we hope that the public's able to still get onto public transport effectively. Really important for KiwiRail, and we have a rail safety week. KiwiRail supports TrackSafe, who manage the campaign for rail safety. Of course, rail safety is every day, but we have a week so that we get the public, get some information in front of the public, get some messaging out there so people hopefully think about what's going on. We had a launch with the Right Honourable Winston Peters at Parliament for Rail Safety Week on the 11th of August, which was fantastic. It was very, very successful, and we had some very challenging conversations around with the Students Against Dangerous Driving team who are supporting Rail Safety Week, and also one of the mayors, Adrian Walcott, who has recently had in her region somebody who's died on the rail, which is, incredibly challenging. So look, Rail Safety Week is really important. KiwiRail and NZTA have developed a ton of collateral around this to go to schools and be able to talk to students, particularly about getting those headphones out of their ears and thinking about if they should be straying into the rail corridor. So if anybody is interested in that sort of activity, we have a team that isn't able to do this all day, every day, but will come along and help. And we have collateral that we can share, posters, games for kids, colouring in competitions, those sorts of things. So happy to share that. With the pack, I have attached the digital collateral that we have available. That's me. Thank you.
Questions to Lisa? Oh, I beg your pardon, Deputy Mayor Scholar.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. So just in terms of the feedback towards your next ARNIP, how does that happen? I obviously that happens at with NZTA. From a council perspective, how might we consider how we might want to be inputting to that in 2026 for your 27 plan, please?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess the conversations that we have at the regional transport committees are really critical for that, and we're happy to get into more engagement around specific needs and wants from the transport committee indications that we get. So that's going to be. I've got a new role. We've had a bit of a vacancy in the policy space, but that person is going to be working with, we've got quite a big program team around the ARNIP, which involves asset management, infrastructure, policy and funding. And that team is going to be, one, putting out some surveys around what sort of things are needed, and then coming back to engage to say, what can we do and what can't we do? What we need to be really careful of is not to, I guess, change the methodology in terms of making sure we are applying the funding to the most critical parts of the network that need support. So it's really about getting the voice into what does the community think about that. So yeah, we're designing that now, the stakeholder engagement plan, and we'll be coming back when you're reopen again next year to talk about how we might be able to engage and what we can do to incorporate priorities into the plan.
Honourable Ken Shirley.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Just a point of clarification. You mentioned in the works program a bridge, Matata. Is that the bridge across the Tarawera River?
I don't think so. It's south of Matata.
Oh, right, the bridge over the highway.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with exactly which one it is, Walter.
That would have been major. So is it a culvert type bridge somewhere, is it, or?
I can get details for you post the meeting and send through if you
This
want.
sort of relates to an earlier presentation we had. I was just wondering what that one might have been.
Yeah, look, I can send those details through. Sorry, I don't have those at hand.
Thank you.
Yes, Scholar, are you happy to move? We received the second to the Honourable Ken Shirley. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Okay, speeding up everybody, because I know you've all got buses to catch. Chairman's report, page 17, everybody, or a train, yes. Wishful thinking. I'm happy to take this as read. You're familiar with most of the letters that have gone and the responses that we have had. I'm happy to move that it be taken as read and happy to move it. Any questions that anyone have pertaining to that report? Being none, Deputy Mayor Imink, are you happy to second that? All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Moving on, Waka Kotahi.
Kia ora, or can you hear me?
Welcome, Andrew.
You can hear me, sorry, I cut out.
We can indeed.
Perfect. I'm just going to attempt to share my screen here, which I don't use Zoom very often. Let's see if this works. Can you see a presentation?
And
brilliant. Now let me try and put that in presenter mode. And has that worked?
Go. Yes, excellent. Go.
Okay, and that's changed slides for you as well.
So, Andrew, comments or questions through the presentation, or you'd like everyone to hold back until the end?
No, comments as we go, just as per usual, as if I was there. Thanks, team, and apologies if I sound a bit unusual, have been battling man flu as well this week, but and we all know how serious that can be. We'll start with a national update as per usual. So the national transition to the new NZTA, lots of words, letters for an acronym there. Effectively, this is our new temporary traffic management guidance. This is about the safety of our road workers and our users of our roads. It's a clear priority for us. We're making changes to our funding conditions to better balance safety, cost and disruption for road users. So all RCAs, including ourselves, will have to progressively apply the NZ guide to temporary traffic management to all relevant activities funded out of the NLTF. This is risk-based assessment, and these decisions support the expectation set out in the GPS that all road controlling authorities need to reduce expenditure of TTM, and we've heard already around road cones today as well, while maintaining obviously the safety of road workers and road users through that traffic management. So adopting this guide is expected to deliver more efficient and effective temporary traffic management for RCAs by improving safety and value for money while minimising the disruption to people's journeys. So it does give us more flexibility, or give TTM crews more flexibility to ensure that they are catering that TTM to specific risks at each site. And it does help with decision making and accountability lines and clarifying those too. We are committed to helping.
Andrew,
Yes.
Andrew, just pause for 1 minute. Is Worship Mayor Denia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is NZTA leading this? Because I see that all RCAs are having to apply it, but if all RCAs apply their own slight variation on that or their own take on it, is NZTA sort of leading what's actually going to be required in practice?
Yes, and we're helping RCAs through that and providing them guidance along the way. My final point on this was going to be, I am interested in hearing, and maybe it's outside of this forum, you've all got connections to myself, whether there's any issues implementing this at your council level as well. We've got people working with council officers and your TTM people directly on how to implement this.
That's good to hear. Thank you, Andrew.
Back to you, Andrew.
I'll move on to forward works planning. So this is the second change that we're looking at making nationally at the moment. The addition of funding condition relating to forward work proposals. So we will require certain RCAs to progressively publish their full forward work program on the National Forward Works Viewer. This is an interactive map that helps you see when and where different projects are being planned around the country. This has been inconsistently applied in the past, but RCAs will be able to share their forward work programs on this platform, and it will help with obviously coordination, but also utility operators, private sector developers and other RCAs to view and coordinate upcoming work that might be of interest to them, to help avoid unnecessary cost duplication and minimise disruption. Speed management. Obviously this year the focus has been on implementing the new speed rule. Future speed limit reviews will focus on locations required for roading projects and for safety. Safety has been prioritised and aligns with the government policy, and setting speed limits ensures that economic impacts, including travel times, as well as the views of local communities and road users, are considered. Any community requests regarding the review of speed limits on state highways, including those affected by recent speed limit reversals, will be added to our register for future consideration. And reviews that don't meet current priorities will stay on that register as well. So there's a certain limit to the funding available annually now for state highway speed reviews. We're through the reversals process, and we are working through gradually the priorities in each region, I guess as per usual.
Andrew, just pause a minute. Is Worship Mayor Denia?
I'm just looking at the agenda, page 43. I'll just read out what it says. It says any proposed speed limit changes need to be aligned with the current setting of speed limits for 24 and can only be progressed once funding is available to plan, consult and set the changed speed limit. Note funding is limited in the 2024-27 NLTP. Are you referring to council speed limit changes, or are you just referring to State Highway NZTA speed limit changes? Because that sounds like you're suggesting that our ability to progress speed limit changes is constrained by NLTP funding, which sounds like that's going to be a big fat zero.
I'm referring to state highways, but I could. Okay. I'm happy to come back with a bit more information around.
I just want the clarification that we as RCAs can progress speed limit changes and yes, are not dependent on. Okay, great. That's great. There, thank you.
Andrew.
Yes, so State Highway Schools VSLs. This is the implementation of the variable speed limit signage outside every school. We are procuring signs at the moment. There are signs going in. The Waikato is already underway. I think Coromandel was first cab off the rank nationally. And in terms of Bay of Plenty, you'll see here we have 22 schools. 5 of those already have VSLs, so we have 17 to install before the 1st of July 2026. And those schools will be able to adjust the timing of the variable speed as well. So it's not just for school hours. For example, if there is a sporting event on a weekend or something that's a bit out of the ordinary, they're able to cater to that too. Jump onto the regional stuff. This is a slightly scary map that we've undertaken. It's a new way of presenting what our maintenance and ops season looks like, I guess, in a geographic form. So you'd see this looking pretty similar ahead of every summer maintenance season. We are investing heavily in road rebuilding and resurfacing across the Bay of Plenty this coming summer, all part of keeping the network safe and reliable and its smooth surface for the driving for everyone. Since the 24-hour pothole repair requirement kicked into place on 1st of July 2024, the Bay of Plenty networks have logged over 1,200 potholes, and over 98% of those were fixed within that 24-hour time frame. This season, we do have a new communication channel as well that hopefully can keep subscribers up to date with ongoing maintenance on a weekly basis. We've got over 800 people ahead of the season starting already subscribed and receiving those updates. I'll just highlight 2 of these. So State Highway 2 Waiaweka Gorge. There were 3 underslip sites through the gorge that required repairing. These designs for the repairs have now been completed and we're procuring the contract documentation at the moment. And the Waimana Gorge, obviously there was an underslip site there that has traffic light stop go. The design for that repair is complete as well. So those 2 sites are progressing currently. State Highway 38, obviously we've still got, it's slightly outside the Bay of Plenty, but we still have some work going on as a result of the recovery projects managed by TREC over the Eastern Bay side. That's just an overview of the areas we are working in, kind of past Lake Waikere Moana. So Takatimu, stage 1. This is a bit of an overview of, I guess, what has happened since the last RTC, which was some time ago. The Wairoa River Bridge site has reached a significant milestone. We've got the beams which span the Wairoa River that have arrived. The team and the other river users will start to see what the bridge will look like in its completed state in coming months. The rest of the beams will continue to arrive over the coming months, connecting the east and west sides of the river. The Wairoa Bridge site held up well during flooding after that heavy rainfall, which inundated the Eastern Bay in particular around 30th of July. Improvements with forecasting through our relationship with NIWA were implemented through the 2023 floods, and that gave some really good advance warning, and the site was secured and staff were able to keep everything safe until the floodwaters subsided, which meant we didn't lose much time. There's 2 cranes on site at the moment as a result of piling work underway at 15th Ave for the new on-ramp. There's a 180-tonne crane that's been brought in, and we do have one at the bottom and one at the top of that steep, narrow site. Once the piling is complete there, works will continue and prep for the bridge beams that will be installed later this year. We obviously had activity restricted during wet weather over winter, which provided an opportunity for a lot of stakeholder visits. We are members of this committee and their fellow elected members were able to be visitors to the site, as well as a large number of other visitors, including the Minister. We also had our Careers for Infrastructure Day out there on the 25th of July as well, so we use that downtime to help with some of that community engagement. Completion of stage 1 is still expected in 2028. Stage 2, a package of applications for statutory approvals. So the resource consents, the notice of requirement, the wildlife approval, the archaeological authorities, all those kind of things were lodged on the 1st of August in 2025 under the Fast Track Approvals Act consenting pathway. These applications were accepted and will be processed. So that was the 22nd of August, so fairly recently that we had noticed that they've been accepted, so they will now be considered by an expert panel. That's a pretty huge step in terms of a way forward for setting out the footprint of the project, reflecting the key environmental approvals required for it to be built, and providing certainty that it will be that it can be constructed when funding becomes available. Tauriko West, we're in the root protection phase. As those of you close to the project will be aware, we're designating, we're consenting and progressing property acquisition. So the project is able to proceed when the detailed design and construction funding is made available. We are expecting to obtain the relevant fast track approvals, and lodgement is programmed for mid-2026. Of all the documentation for that with root protection expected to be completed in the years following. Next slide is Omanawa Bridge specific, which is the first phase of the Tauriko Road of national significance. We've awarded the contract to HEB for construction, total cost of $92 million to deliver the project. The construction contract is $42 million. And that will be underway imminently. There's some tree removal going on over the next, it's been underway already the next week or so as well, before the team is in there, and that will be visible. Safety improvement updates. I'll touch on Waihi John Mokoroa. So 5 of those 6 roundabouts have been completed. We're still doing work on the State Highway 2 Esdale Road intersection. The Wainui Road to Aportiki near David, I don't know if he's in the room, but that's progressing really well at the Matakerapu Wainui intersection. We had heavy flooding there, the rain event that I mentioned previously on the 30th of July, which caused work to stop for only 1 day, and we lost a week as a result of the severe flooding there. But the work is progressing really well through our contractor Camex. In early August, a traffic shift there took place. So Wainui eastbound traffic now are using the newly widened shoulder, enabling construction to continue on the roundabout, which should be completed by April 2026. The following roundabouts at State Highway 2 that we announced at the last RTC meeting were receiving funding at Ohiwa Beach and Waiotahi Valley Back Road intersections. We have confirmed the teardrop roundabout design, and we're working through land acquisition at the moment. So we should have further information at the next RTC about this one. We've been working really closely with Bay of Plenty Regional Council on some adjacent land opportunities as well, which hopefully we'll be able to discuss in the future.
Andrew Mayor Moore's just re-entered the room, so I didn't know whether you wanted to direct any comments direct to him. So,
yeah, I was just updating David on the updates at Wainui Matakirapu and the, I guess, pace of the work happening there. We're quite happy with how that's progressing at the moment.
It's looking very good. Just the bridge to do as well.
back to you, Andrew.
What's that?
Back to you.
Back to me. Tiro to Tarakinga. So this is State Highway 5 on the way to Rotorua. There is a roundabout going in State Highway 5 and 28. So Harwood's Road intersection at the moment. And hopefully there'll be traffic on that roundabout by March 2026. We've had a right-hand turn bay installed at Waimakariri Road nearby as well. So this is part of wider safety improvement program along that corridor, which back in the early 2000s was had a high number of DSIs when the Tāpapa Straits were implemented. So this is, an intergenerational safety project in a way. The safety camera program, I think I updated the last RTC as well. We have the we've completed the handover from New Zealand Police now, and we have the 2 sites for the average speed cameras about to get underway with implementation. So one on State Highway 5 near Tumanui, south of Rotorua, and one near Matata on the Straits there as well. These 2 sites were identified as part of a national risk assessment as sites where there is a high level of average speed that would benefit from safety cameras being put in place. What we did at the Waikato RTC recently was get one of our safety camera team in to do a more in-depth discussion on safety cameras and the rollout, and I'm happy to undertake that at a future iteration of RTC. Maybe we look at which members are around the table following elections as well, and consider that with the chairperson at the time through yourself as well, Oliver. Other projects, Hauraki Stream Bridge, just north of Rotorua near Kamarana. We're still going through the detailed design and consenting there. Pekatahi Bridge, obviously since the last RTC there has been media releases around the funding that is going to be provided and confirmed for the deck replacement of that bridge, which was obviously unfunded at the time, and given the state of the bridge, that was a big win for the agency and for the region. And we also have the Tauranga Commercial Vehicle Safety Centre site still being designed and the property being procured for that at the moment too. Final slide, I believe, is the Tauranga Eastern Link consultation, which has been underway. So we had 4 weeks of consultation regarding a proposed amendment to the tolling scheme for the TEL that closed to public submission on the 28th of August. So thanks to those elected members around the table who were part of submissions to that process. Now that that public consultation is closed, the board considers the results of that alongside the technical analysis and then may recommend an amendment to the order in council to the Minister of Transport. So the decision making sits at that board and minister level, and the minister will receive summarised versions of that public consultation as well. Other than that, I think that brings me to an end. Thanks for...
Thank you.
I was also just going to note, thanks, so this is my 3rd meeting, obviously, at this committee. I've been in the role for about 10 months now, and just want to thank you all for welcoming me onto this committee. So all the best in the coming weeks as well, and we'll see hopefully some of you around the table in future.
Further comments with regards to the NZTA report? Worship Mayor Daniel.
Just one quickly. The tolling outcome, when will we hear that? When will the decision be made?
I'm not actually sure when that goes up to the board and then to the minister. I would say hopefully by the end of the year, but these processes can take a bit of time.
Okay, thanks.
Deputy Mayor Imick, then the Honourable Ken Shirley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Andrew. I might have missed it in the last RTC meeting. So you're saying there's going to be a second toll past the Papamoa interchange? So you've
So
got one going up
between-
to that point.
Between Domain Road interchange and the new Papamoa East interchange, we were consulting on the proposed introduction of a second toll point. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, no, I hadn't heard about it, but I don't know whether anyone east had an opportunity to give some submissions on that. How wide did you spread that net?
Yeah, that was fairly widely advertised. I did an interview around it on, I can't remember the name of the Whakatane radio station at one point.
Okay, 1XX, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, okay, thank you.
But you'll only be pinged once, not twice, won't you?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think that
That is what I was
asking. Reduced toll proposed as well for users of a certain.
Right, sure.
It's
Okay,
essentially a lesser toll for a lesser distance. If you, yeah.
Honourable Ken Shirley.
Can I clarify, Andrew, is that to prevent people who will be using the Eastern Link exiting the new Papamoa and that then they'd avoid the toll? So this is to make sure that that traffic doesn't avoid the toll. Is that the prime purpose?
Yes, that's correct. It stops people being able to avoid it due to the Papamoa East interchange being implemented.
Any other questions or comments to NZTA?
Chairman, I just thought,
Honourable Ken Shirley,
with regard to the Wright Road, whether we did need to take some sort of action, and we had formally written and had a response, but I think given the basis of what we, quite a substantial submission to us this morning, I think it could well be appropriate to write to the CEO of NZTA and copy it to the chairman of the NZTA board and the minister, seeking a detailed explanation and justification for the substantial or sustained refusal to enable the right-hand turn onto State Highway 2 from Wrights Road, in spite of the strong and overwhelming expressed wish of the broader community. I just think there's been this, obviously people talking past each other, and I think for us to formally just seek that explanation and justification, I think that would help appease the people that we heard from this morning also, because it's obviously got a pretty highly charged issue. The feeling of the community hasn't gone away. And I think we could add to the end of that, also urge that NZTA officials engage openly with the community on this issue. Now, whether you want to take that as a motion or just put it in the minutes that we do that, up to you, Chairman.
Take it as a motion. If you're happy to move.
Yeah, look, I'd be very happy to move that. Would you like me to perhaps read it again? Or
Councillor Shelley, if I may, I think I discussed earlier with you, if we can have an affirmation of our earlier held position in the letter.
Fine. We did have that discussion earlier, but the more I thought about it, our earlier letter said that there should be complete right-hand turns from every lateral section, whereas this proposal is much narrower. It's purely the Wrights Road issue. And I think, having driven that road frequently, to actually insist on right-hand turns on every lateral road access too far.
Just noting that they did ask for right-hand turns on all lateral roads this morning.
Yeah.
I think there are perhaps some differences on views on that.
Look, I'm happy.
Hold on a minute, just to get it on the table. Are you happy to second this?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, well, the Mayor's Worship Mayor, then you seconded it. It's now open for discussion. Back to you. You can you help? It's important we get the wording right here.
That the Regional Transport Committee write to the CEO of NZTA.
But slow down.
Copy to the chairman of the NZTA board and Minister of Transport.
Slow down. Slow down.
That or okay. That the Regional Transport Committee write to the CEO of NZTA copied to the chairman of the NZTA board, Minister of Transport, seeking a detailed explanation, justification for the sustained refusal to enable a right-hand turn onto State Highway 2 from Wright Road. Despite of the strong and overwhelming expression.
Slow down, Ken, slow
I
down.
had a question, I just wondered.
Despite of the strong and overwhelming expressed wish of the broader community, of the or just expressed wish of the broader community, also urging that NZTA officials engage openly with the community on this issue. From Wright Road. State Highway 2 from Wright Road. And the expressed wish, I think you have to have ED on the end of express. And then new sentence, also urging that NZTA officials engage openly with the community on this issue. And Mayor Dan, you may want to discuss his amendment because I think that could well benefit. I don't know.
I think, well, my suggestion would be to have a 5A and 5B, where Councillor Shirley's, that becomes 5B and 5A is, sorry, that the RTC affirms its desire that right-hand turns be reinstated to Wright Road.
Pass over to Oliver for one moment.
So through you, Chair, I just wanted to double check that that was the previous position of this committee. So this committee has written a letter to NZTA, but the request was that NZTA reviews the project in light of the feedback from the community. I don't think this committee has ever specifically stated the reinstatement of the right-hand turns.
We could just state it now. To say the RTC desires that the right-hand turn be reinstated on Wright Road. Recommends might be better wording. Yeah.
Recommend.
Problem desire lines, that's a different thing. Yeah, recommends, yeah.
Okay. We got it all there. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Scholar.
I would, I support this. I would just like to foreshadow an amendment to add that, that based on the safety data from NZTA, that backs up this recommendation, or that I guess C looks at the, or acknowledges the safety data, the NZTA safety data that supports this recommendation.
Emily, we add that after seeks a detailed explanation and justification based on the data. Put it in at that point.
Yeah, happy with that. Thank you.
Amanda, you want to know who's going to put their signature? Is it me or who? Oh, sorry.
It's seeking a detailed explanation, justification based on the available data. Yeah. Are you happy with that?
And just, if I may, Mr. Chair, there's just to tidy up with the language, it's enable a right-hand turn into and out of, and that on both A and B.
Specify who's going to sign this letter off, the current chairperson, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, oh, good. There you go, Amanda. Okay, is that?
No, I think, Mayor Daniel, it's the we've got to change the right-hand turn because it's not just exiting.
It's in and out. It's right-hand turn in and out.
Yeah.
So the 5A recommends that right-hand turns be reinstated into and out of Wright Road.
Hey, thanks for coming. It was brilliant. Say hi to Angus for us. Cheers. Thank you so much. Bye now.
And then B, enable a right-hand turn into and out of right-hand turn. Yeah, into and out of State Highway 2 from Wright Road. So on the third line of B,
yeah.
So it says refusal to enable right-hand turn into and out of, I'd say Wright Road from State Highway 2, might read better.
Yes.
I think NZTA.
But it's interpretation, do you, Mr. Chair? It's the different interpretation of the data. So I don't know whether that's got relevance.
Well, I guess it's implied anyway, as the point's been made. I think you made it, Greg, that they base everything on their data anyway. So by seeking an explanation and justification, they will presumably refer to their data.
Just through the chair, if you're referring to the data that was produced this morning, you have to have those specific dates, because if you're going to have that, they're going to use the data that's available now, not the dates leading up to the changes. Otherwise, you have to have a specific date, I think, if you're talking about actual data that they've used. They presented no crashes during that period. If you use the data from now on, there could be crashes. I mean, you have to have a specific date.
Yeah, I think
Hold on.
the best. What I think about
This is
detailed explanation,
Yep.
justification.
Yep. Need to move.
People are happy with that.
Don't remove that.
Everyone live with that? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'm about to put it right. Those voting are the Honourable Ken Shirley, Mayor Tunui, Mayor Moore, Mayor Tapsell. Mayor Tapsell, are you still with us? No, I think may have gone. Deputy Mayor Schooler, Mayor James Denia, and Deputy Mayor Leslie Immink. And Andrew, we will note that you abstained and took no part in the discussion or the debate. Am I reading your mind there? Good. Okay, so they are the ones that are voting. Honourable Ken Shirley, Mayor Tunui, Mayor Moore, Mayor Tapsell, Deputy Mayor Schooler, Mayor Denya, myself, of course, and Deputy Mayor Leslie Emick. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Passed unanimously, noting that Andrew Corkill didn't vote and take part in the debate. Okay, thank you, Councillor Shirley. Okay, moving on. The annual monitoring report. Forward, Catherine.
Kia ora
Catherine and
koutou.
Andrew, yes, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Ko Katria Takuingwa. My name is Katria. I'm a senior transport planner here at Toimona. So this is the annual RLTP monitoring report. I'm hoping to take it largely as read. So just to provide a brief summary. So this is the final monitoring report on the previous RLTP, so the 2021-31 RLTP, and it's covering the 23-24 financial year. This reporting was originally due to this committee in May, but that was postponed to this meeting today. If you're wondering about the lag in the reporting timeframes, so why we're looking at the 23-24 year instead of the last financial year, 24-25, that's due to us relying on lots of external data sources for this reporting. So we get this data from NZTA, from the Ministry of Transport, from Stats, from our TLA partners, and they of course have their own reporting cycles and timeframes. So that means that there's up to a 12-month lag in getting the data and it being available for reporting for us. In terms of results for the 23-24 year, overall we've seen modest progress. So out of the 27 KPIs that we have in the RLTP, we've seen 8 being met, 1 being partially met, 14 have not been met, and 4 have insufficient data for reporting. Overall, this represents a reduction in performance, and this is mainly driven by policy and funding shifts, as well as economic pressures. But it's not all doom and gloom. There's some good news, and especially looking at the inclusive access objective in the RLTP, we've seen all but 1 of our measures met under there, so it's some good news as well. So as mentioned, this is the last time we're reporting on the previous RLTP, and next year we'll be coming back to this committee and start reporting on the current operative RLTP, so the 2024-34 RLTP. That's my 1-minute summary. I'm happy to take questions.
Questions, anybody? Katri? Mayor Scholar.
Thank you for this, and I guess the question, with only 8 and a bit met out of 27 indicators, and that was for the previous year. What's being done about that? Because that to me, okay, it's good that you're feeling that there's some progress, but to me that's maybe, is it taking on too much? Is it, what are we going to do so that we actually, because, you know, it's going to take longer to meet the ones that haven't been met. So what's the update from that in terms of how things can be done differently so we can get different results?
So through the chair, as mentioned, the RLTP measures kind of broader transport trends. So we have relatively little influence over some of these measures. The large driving factor behind a lot of this performance, as mentioned before, is changes in the policy and the funding side of things. And then, of course, the broader economic climate that we're in is largely driving these changes.
Through the chair, just to add to that, so I think the RLTP is also a bit of a proxy for the way the whole network's operating. So it takes a number of of us, including NZTA, TLAs, police, and other enforcement agencies to support these stats, and also delivery of projects within the RLTP. So if, for example, an activity hasn't been funded, which might have had a DSI reduction target within it, that would then support ensuring that DSI reduction actually comes down, but some of these activities aren't going ahead. So that's why you're seeing some potentially, well, not potentially, but some negative results.
Yeah, Imink.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the report. Good morning. I'm just wanted to, I know it's probably outside your control, but it's concerning that the budget for 1 kilometre of road was 1145 and it costs 3,087. And that's for the 23-24 year. Do we have a cost for the 25 year? That's outside our control, but is that one of the things that's affecting being able to receive any of those other measures?
Through the chair, so that's correct. That data is not yet available, and it's stated in the report that this is largely driven by economic factors, so mainly inflation. So we're seeing cost rises across the board, and this is one of the things that we're noticing in our monitoring.
If I may, maybe perhaps Andrew, you might be able to give some insight into perhaps what our kilometre, because obviously this impacts hugely on our balance sheets, the cost of roading. Any end in sight about trying to get more efficiencies with that?
I'm happy to come back with some detail on that if you like to the committee.
Thank you.
Even if you get back to Deputy Mayor Imink direct, Andrew.
Happy to, yeah.
Councillor McMillan.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it seems from these that we are becoming more and more car-centric, already being, well, Tauranga being the most car-centric city in Aotearoa and New Zealand being the most car-centric of the OECD. And I know it's outside of our control to a degree, as you've already explained, but just wondering whether you think that if in the metro areas we had more T3, there was a real focus on T3 as well as all the other, as well as mode shift, obviously, no brainer, but whether that might have an impact, or is that unrealistic?
Through the chair, I think anything that supports delivering mode shift, whether it be to bike, walking, bus, or any type of mode, is going to help with these statistics. What you're probably seeing here with these stats is the fact that the RLTP has been poorly funded from the perspective of walking and cycling, particularly that category. So yeah.
Further to Andrew's comments and through the chair, the other thing I'd add is this report card is looking at policy that was set regionally back in 2021. We'll shortly be hearing about the current RLTP, where the focus has very much moved, for cost reasons towards delivering priority within existing corridor space. So you're seeing less dedicated infrastructure, but that has increased a focus on things such as high occupancy vehicle lanes. So you are seeing those sorts of things being investigated more and more in business cases, because they are seen as options to provide better value for money in terms of moving people quicker than dedicated infrastructure.
Same infrastructure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And just to add to that as well, we're working on the RPTP, as you know, at the moment. So the development of that is really important to ensure that we get the right narrative through that to then support our funding cycle through the RLTP process. Yeah.
I'll move that we receive the report, the RLTP 2021-31 annual monitoring report, seconded Mayor Tunui. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Over to page 54, the Regional Land Transport Plan Implementation Report. Andrew and Tapu Wairinga.
Aku nui e aku rahi tēnā tātou, ko pūtawa ki te maunga, ko rangatai ki te awa, ko mā tātua te waka, ko nā te awa tōku iwi, ko tapu wairenga ahau. I'm a transport planner here at Toi Moana Bay of Plenty Regional Council. You might have seen my face around about a year ago. I was on parental leave and have just come back. Today I'm presenting the RLTP Implementation Monitoring Report, and this is monitoring the 2024 RLTP. There's not been a major shift since it was presented in May this year, but there was, and a large proportion of the improvements are still in grey. So they remain unfunded from the National Land Transport Fund, and some activities are progressing with alternative funding sources, such as local share, crowdfunding, or in some cases developer have been contributing. Of the 49 activities, 5 are seen are at risk and not progressing. So this is again due to those the constrained funding environment that we're in, and the de-scoping or delay of delivery timeframes. But despite the constrained funding environment, a majority of those the remaining projects are progressing or progressing well. So I'll take the report largely as read. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions, colleagues? Being none, I'd like to congratulate you. It's your first time presenting to the committee, I am told. I won't disclose my source. No, well done. Well done, very professional. I'm happy to move. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Imink. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Moving over to page 73, highlights of the Triennium. Oliver.
Through you, Chair. It's been a busy 3 years for this committee and a relatively significant work programme. If you cast your minds back to the start of this triennium, the first 18 months was dominated by this committee supporting staff through the development of the current regional land transport plan, which the committee recommended the adoption of to the Regional Council in 2024. That was a huge effort from this committee, and staff were very, very grateful for the support that we received from members through that process, through what was a challenging time with the external environment in terms of significant changes in policy and funding. The other thing I'd highlight from this report is the amount of advocacy that this committee has undertaken over this triennium, and that has continued right into the last meeting, and a couple of those things are noted in the report. I'll hand over to you, Chair. I'm not sure if there's any other items that you would like to raise in terms of highlights over the past 3 years.
I'd just like to thank everyone for their contribution over the last 3 years. I believe they've been good meetings and everyone's had a fair crack at the issues that they're incredibly passionate about. But I open up the 3-year history for discussion or comment if anyone would like to, or was brave enough to criticise us.
Could I just add to that and express our thanks to you for leading us as the chairman of Road Transport Forum over the last triennium, and I'm sure we'll see you back in a few weeks' time to carry on.
Any further comments, anybody? But thank you for those words. You happy to move, Honourable Ken Shirley? Seconded, Deputy Mayor Schooler. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. That's brought us all back to the very end of the meeting, but we have a few contributions to come from Greg. Any comments, Freight, that you'd like to bring to our attention? But thank you for your contribution over the last number of years. Been greatly valued.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on board. I guess my parting comments are that from a road transport point of view is that 93% of freight by tonnes still moved by road, and by 75% by kilometre. I guess, you know, freight is a major component to New Zealand's productivity and efficiency. We got to get goods to market in the most productive and efficient way. I just guess all of you here that when you make decisions, whether you like them or not, you just got to have the courage and the strength to actually stick to it and believe in what's best for this region and take your eyes off yourselves and sometimes place it on the region that you live in. That's all.
Yeah, Dania, any final comments you'd like to make at all? Anything?
Well, thank you. I wasn't expecting to have the
I'm not
opportunity,
saying
but
final comments, just any comments you'd like to make.
no, it's been a pleasure working with you all, and I look forward to hopefully doing so again next time. Thank you.
Yeah, more.
Always a pleasure coming here, as long as we can get through the traffic. No, it's been awesome, and I certainly love the way you chair the meeting. It's a real highlight for me. Thank you.
Yes, Scholar, it's been wonderful having you here,
And I'm very calm in the next couple of months, so all the best to everyone else in your positions. But very interesting, and I think this is it's really important that we have these discussions. And I also like the way the meeting is chaired. So thank you.
we value our relationship with TCC, particularly at a transport level. So long may it last, whoever's here. And sort of hello and goodbye, Paul Wilson. So good to have you with us. And it's good to have the police here. So just a few thoughts on what you've picked up. I think it would have been interesting for you to have heard the Wright Road people this morning. It was a pretty long forum. It was over an hour, which is way outside standing orders, but I think we owed it to them. So give them a fair hearing.
Yeah, thank you. That was insightful. They definitely come prepared. I also had some deployment of New Zealand Police to share. But the meeting has concluded.
It's most interesting.
I didn't prepare a presentation, and I'm not sure. Apologies if Logan Marsh usually does that for everybody here. But as earlier said, I'm relieving in the district road policing manager position for a short time, 9 weeks in at the moment. So essentially, I was just going to talk generally about the road policing deployment across the New Zealand Police, and then also that's obviously reflected in the Bay of Plenty, is that we run by the Road Policing Investment Program. That comes out of $1.3 billion of funding over 3 years for New Zealand Police, and a lot of that targets at us to have strong levels of enforcement. Those levels of enforcement for us is to deploy nationally 1,200 road policing officers to the open roads. And within the Bay of Plenty, that's about 80 officers that will deploy to the open road, spending 90% of their time. The remainder of the about 12,000 sworn police officers will obviously deploy teams purely into those rural roads. We know that 83% of our fatal crashes are in rural roads. And something that I picked up in my time in this role was that through June, there were 6 fatal crashes in the Bay of Plenty. In July, there were 5. Compare that to 2023 and 2024, we were at 1 per month. So there's a lot happening in terms of NZTA and other partner agencies in terms of removing that risk. And I hear the term DSI spoken about a lot here today. I purely wanted to look into why is that the case, but to try and find an immediate and exact answer is a difficult one. 9 out of those 11 in June and July were in our rural roads. 6 out of those 9 were on majority right-hand bends with no signage. 4 of those, the drivers had drugs in their system. And again, 6 of them were on icy conditions. So not pointing to exact reasons, but there are some themes. I attended a meeting with the New Zealand Transport Agency, and being in this role 9 weeks, I was blown away that there was somebody sitting there that reviews all the bends on our roads and our networks every quarter. And there's a computer system that deploys trucks to obviously for the surface of the roads in icy conditions. So again, that's why I say New Zealand Police will deploy the road policing resource to the rural roads. That's where we can prevent the fatal crashes on our roads. But unless there's any questions that anyone might have of me, that were just my general comments for today.
Thank you for being here, and send our best wishes to Logan when you see him. Okay. Marie, thank you for being here, flying the flag for the Automobile Association on the last day. So No, been good having you here because there was considerable pressure on us to include the Automobile Association. They were members many, many years ago. And no, it's been invaluable having them here. So anything you'd just like to highlight with what's hot and what's not within the AA? So.
Firstly, on behalf of the New Zealand Automobile Association, specifically the Bay of Plenty Council, and Stacey Small, who was unable to attend this meeting due to prior engagements, we'd like to extend our gratitude to the Regional Transport Committee for allowing us to participate. These meetings provide us with a deeper understanding of the issues and the projects that are actually occurring throughout our region and allows us best represent our AA members. In recent months, we've been actively engaging with current and prospective candidates standing for election, which it affects, wanting to set your views on transport-related priorities impacting the movement across all modes of transport throughout our region. Our aim is to raise awareness for the AA Council's commitment to important matters such as road safety and infrastructure. And we're able to act on behalf of our members and the broader community and to engage with central government to advocate where necessary. Is the AA, we've been campaigning on safety improvements on State Highway 2 as identified by the KiwiRail, which is the New Zealand Road Assessment Program, which highlights high-risk sections of the road. NZTA have done an excellent job in completing new and improved intersections, which the Wright Road obviously has been a contentious subject this morning, along the stretch, allowing motorists to navigate State Highway 2. However, based on data produced by KiwiRail and feedback from the community and commuters, we believe that there is more work to be done. Additionally, we have submitted a proposal with NZTA regarding this Tauranga Eastern Link and the tolling issue the new tolling that's going to be taking place. And our objective on behalf of our members is to ensure that the tolling is reasonable and fair for all motorists, whether they use the entire stretch of the road or a partial stretch, and that they feel that they are receiving good value for money. We also want to ensure that the funds raised contribute to debt repayment and maintenance on the TEL. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Marie. Deputy Mayor Immink.
Yeah, and thanks everyone. I've really enjoyed sitting around the table, sometimes with the mayor and sometimes as the alternate. I guess I've got a little bit of a challenge to put to members around this committee. It's such a valuable committee that I think sometimes the members don't take back the information and spread it amongst your councillors, because councillors often make the wrong assumptions about what does and what doesn't go on at these meetings. And I, particularly that they're live streamed and recorded, I would like to see us really encourage all the councillors to make more meaningful attempts to review these, because it cuts through so much other time when you're at other meetings. If you're already semi-aware of what's happening around this table, I mean, all the joint committees that we get to sit on gives you huge insights into the next level picture from your own community. Thank you.
Worship Mayor Tunui.
Kia ora Chair, look, from the city of Kawerau.
10 minutes starting now. You've got 10 minutes.
We'd just like to really thank all of our colleagues. I've been an alternate member for quite some time, but actually got a little bit closer to the action in this Triennium. And we've taken a journey together to prepare our 10-year 2024 to 2034, I think it is, Oliver, Regional Land Transport Plan. And have done that together, balancing considerations of keeping our people safe and healthy, with a higher level of consideration for our environmental stewardship and sustainability, ensuring inclusive access for all, while trying to progress and develop and grow our economic prosperity, and considering our resilience and safety of our transport networks across the board. And I'd just really like to thank all the colleagues. Congratulations, Chair. We have had a change of membership in this Triennium. Thinking back 3 years ago, we did have commissioner representation for Tauranga City, and you've been able to welcome in our beautiful new colleagues from TCC, Deputy Mayor Schooler, and the team across at Tauranga City, while continuing to work on the mahi that we had in front of us. And I just want to thank everyone for their support, for those who are restanding in the upcoming local body elections, all the best, and just to plea out to all the sons and daughters of the Bay of Plenty Rohe across the board. Please just participate. Please just have your say for the Bay. Kia ora.
So as I said earlier on, thanks to all the members voting and non-voting for your contribution over the last 3 years. It's been an absolute pleasure to chair this particular committee. Best wishes to all of you standing in the election. Kia kaha, as they say in these parts. To you, Andrew, and I also include David Spears on this. Whilst there's been some hefty discussions and forums along the way, you've maintained your role with us with great dignity, and you've been a great servant to this committee and a great contributor. So if you ever pass sort of David Spears, can you also pass on our comments, Andrew? Please.
I see him regularly. Will do. Thank
But
you.
on you. And to you, Oliver, you and your staff, you've given fantastic service to this committee. I like your style and your input and your level of detail that you share with us. It's greatly valued. And finally, the one I've got to throw a massive bouquet at is you, Amanda, because wedding plans coming up, and so don't put that on the minutes, but no, we wish you all the very best for your upcoming nuptials. And you've been absolutely invaluable in terms of your professionalism and the support that you've given to everyone around this table and to other committees within the organisation. So other than that, I just invite you all to partake now in a very lavish lunch. And I'll say tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.